It's a bit loud. Not raving. Sorry, I've not read through the rest of the pictures that you sent. I just suddenly saw the time and realised that I should be live.
You talking to me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I say,
I started reading that first one, and then I looked up and saw that we had like 3 minutes, and I was like, oh, wow.
yeah, a little bit too short to look through a academic research paper.
Yeah. But from kind of the summary, it looked like what they're basically saying. I mean, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously I haven't read it all. But is that unless you make some sort of like ethical connection, unless you subscribe to one of the social just parts of the movement, that there's no longevity there. That it'll kind of be until someone else influences you in some other way.
Yeah, it could be that. Also, there's a gender imbalance as well. Again, mixed up with all that thing about masculinity and flesh and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine the percentages of females over males are quite considerable.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it seemed that in this particular research they forced a gender balance, so they wanted the same amount of female respondents to male ones, which, given the fact there's a lot more females in the animal movement, it would kind of skew the results a little bit.
Yeah,
So that,
absolutely. Yeah, and it's not just a shade more, is it? It's quite a considerable margin.
yeah, probably 70-30.
Yeah, I was going to say 70-30 is probably about the percentage, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, but there's a significant difference there. You're cutting out a big part of the potential audience by restraining it like that.
Well, from a methodological point of view, it just kind of skews it, because it basically is showing that vegans are more liberal than the general population, but men tend to be more conservative, and so that's one of the reasons why you got this imbalance in the movement. But plus the fact you've got all this mythology and beliefs about masculinity and flesh consumption and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot in it.
So first things first, is the picture viewable, or do I need to change that before we do anything else?
It's viewable to me, but I got a feeling it might be cut off for some people.
It's very close to the edges, yes. I noticed. Or I can swap it to this one. If I remember where.
Yeah, we've got one I can see. The thing is, it's got a line at the bottom. Why aren't you vegan? So can everybody see the word vegan in green? It seems that for some people it cuts off. I think kind of halfway down the screen or something. I can see the TH or S. I can see this one. Yeah,
Okay, so this one might.
Yeah. I think on the first one, Andy, you probably got the bit where it says "not property." That bit might not be.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to screenshot it to reduce the size, but it's obviously just not going to match. It'll work for some people, I think, but for a lot of people, it's going to be too much cut off. Oh well, no, not to worry.
Yeah. Well, there's Jennifer. She'll tell us. Can you see that that slogan on the screen, Jennifer? It reads, "Why aren't you vegan?"
But yeah, just for the couple of people that have made guest requests, usually on a Saturday, I leave it a little bit. We normally have like a little bit of a hangout at first, and I'll take guests from say 9 p.m. onwards.
We were looking at a news item which we thought we'd start with, because it's a little bit weird, isn't it? Was it?
Yeah, it's wow, it's a bit strange. Yeah.
Are you there, Andy?
Yeah, yeah. Hello? I can't work out how to add that little. There used to be a box that I could add with a small amount of text in it, and I can't remember how to do that. I was just going to put guests after 9, but I can't find their box. Is that it? Stickers. Yeah, stickers. Okay. There you go. Break it. Oh, yeah. I better put. Can you not hear me? Oh, you. So you can hear me? Okay. Yeah, I can't hear. I can't hear Roger. I was just thinking that I was on my own then. Yeah, I'm not sure. You might have to leave and come back, Roger. It might be you. I was thinking it was me when I changed the background.
Okay, Jennifer, I can't hear Andy,
Oh, I
but
can hear
you're
you
saying
now.
you can hear Andy, but not
I,
me.
I can hear you
Well,
now, as long as you can
okay.
hear me. Yeah, I heard you that time. Don't know what happened then.
Yeah,
It might have been
I
because I
wasn't
was messing
speaking.
around with
Sorry,
the
I was
question thing.
typing. So
Yeah, it may be because I was on the sticker screen. But yeah, you're a bit quieter than normal, but I can still hear you.
very quiet. Well, that's me. I'm a very quiet person.
But yeah, so this news article that you sent me is essentially.
But I still can't hear Andy.
Oh, hang on. Try and get you back on and see if that fixes it. I mean, I'm more than happy to restart the live, but it doesn't seem like I'm the problem at the moment. Can you hear me now?
Right. Oh, no, something's dead weird now.
Hello, hello, hello.
Doesn't look. It's not the normal screen at all now.
Obviously not. I don't know. I don't know why. What's the problem? But no, you obviously can't hear me. I don't know how to fix this. This is a new problem that I've not occurred before. Normally, if there's like an
Yeah,
echo or
I
a
can't
bad
hear
line,
Andy. Hang on, I'll drop out and see.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to suggest that because he just left and came back once, and that didn't fix it at all. If anyone has any advice, please feel free to give it to us because when it comes to TikTok, I'm not the best, as you can probably see. But no, I could hear him, but he was more quiet than usual. But oh well. So because meat is delicious, well, I'm sure that most people wouldn't dispute that fact, but it doesn't answer any moral questions. That's the problem. I mean, I'm sure lots of people who commit all sorts of acts of things that we would consider immoral enjoy doing so, but enjoyment and personal satisfaction aren't a justification for morality.
Right, I think I'm back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yay! Okay, we're fine. I can hear you clear. You're much clearer now as well.
yeah. I think I know what I did, but I'm not going to tell you. It's too embarrassing.
I know, as long as you know what you did and it's fixed, that's all I care about, to be honest. Because I was thinking, I don't know what I've done here. I thought it was when I added the guest from 9 p.m. sticker that I'd somehow muted you or something.
Oh, okay.
So as long as I know it wasn't me, that's fine.
Yeah, it wasn't you. It was me. So
So yeah, essentially, we were going to start with a news article that was talking about a pantomime. I can't remember where it was now. Does it say Cheltenham?
Cheltenham, yeah.
Yeah, Cheltenham. That had put a song in one. I mean, if you don't know what a pantomime is, I'm not sure whether they're an American thing or not. But it's kind of like a silly play. It's probably the best way to put it. They're normally like themed in terms of fairy tales, things like Cinderella, Puss in Boots, that kind of stuff. And it's kind of like a musical play that's usually quite funny, and they'll have a character that the audience are supposed to dislike, and they'll go boo hiss, and there'll be a character that they all really like. That's pretty much the pantomime from what I can remember. It's been a many years since I went to one. But to cut a long story short, it seemed like for one of these pantomimes that was being aired, I'm assuming this festive period, they'd wrote a song. I'll have to get the bit right. Was it the A in vegan stood for anemic stroke annoying? And what was the G?
Gassy.
Gassy, that was it. Yeah. So that, I mean, I don't know the full song, but it just sounds very petty, and probably not something we should be offended with. But that's the news story, that a local vegan was offended by the song because some school children chose to sing it to them, and that's where we're at. I mean,
Yeah.
personally, if we're going to get a news story about veganism, you'd wish it was something relevant, you know, rather than adding to the idea that we haven't got a sense of humor, which it does. Because the word from the words that I saw, I mean, you're more likely to offend anemic people than vegans, and they weren't mentioned.
Yeah, well, it says here that some people from the crowd complained about the song, so it doesn't say that they were exclusively vegans.
No.
But a girl who was vegan did as well. And people at school started singing the vegan panto song to her, apparently, to kind of like wind her up.
Yeah.
But, because I taught the sociology of humor, you've got to be very careful with these things. Because, not having a sense of humor, what we used to say is, if you don't have a sense of humor, that's not an observation, it's an accusation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because someone with a sense of humor is usually very, very unpopular.
Yeah, and I mean the one thing that we do need to sort of this was for a pantomime. It's not like this was Shakespeare and they thought, let's see if we can sneak this in. Like the whole point is supposed to be like fun and jovial and like, light-hearted. That's like the kind of point you take your kids for a laugh and a joke. So I mean, I think the context is important too. I'm not saying that, we should encourage people to make jokes about us all the time, but at the same time we should be able to take them, yeah. For the way that we should be looking at this is potentially, all right, those school kids are singing a song that mocks veganism, but they're singing about veganism. And I bet you they've never done that before.
Vegans have been the most confused hypocrites on earth for decades. Yeah, well, since 1944 even.
Yeah. Why are we confused hypocrites though? What are we confused or hypocritical about?
God made me a meat eater. Yeah, but there is no religious teaching which mandates it, is there?
Why
So,
aren't you a whale? Why aren't you a frog? Oh, are you just going through? Right, I see. Just going to go through every animal you can think of and ask the question. Is projection. Well, to use another response, God didn't make me a dog or a whale or a frog. He made me a human being, if we want to use that logic. I mean, I don't personally believe in a God, but it's a simple answer to the question.
can you explain why this person's saying all this? Because
I'm assuming they're answering why aren't you vegan with, the projection of, well, I'll ask you why you're not this instead.
I see.
It's the only thing that makes sense to me. I mean, I could be wrong with that, but I'm guessing that's what it is.
It doesn't make sense, does it?
No.
I like eating protein. Yeah.
Meat plus lactose is just too good. I've not heard it described like that before.
No, that's an unusual way of doing it, isn't it?
Plus lactose, yeah. I mean, In terms of lactose, I mean, and I can never remember what the percentage is, but it's pretty high. It's like 70 plus or whatever. People are lactose intolerant. So I'd say that that's not good. And that's not from a vegan position. That's just from a position of health. If a good percentage of the people can't tolerate something, it's probably not designed for them to be consumed by. Like, that's kind of how these things should work. If your body's telling you, no, I fundamentally disagree with this is going to make you unwell, should probably be paying attention to things like that.
Let me just say that this joke, at least I don't eat grass, is not very funny, and certainly not when you've repeated it 20 times, because, there are no humans who eat grass unless you're actually forced to in a starvation situation.
Hmm.
There's probably some grass eating probably in Gaza now, I would think.
Well, yeah, anything, yeah. Anything they can pull out of the ground, I would imagine. Anything green. I mean, obviously, grass is used in some places as certain ingredients and things like that, and it's used for some drinks and things. But like, I don't know why people assume that it's kind of like a staple of our diet, which is very silly. I mean, even grass, when we're talking about just grass, that's not even a staple of most what you would consider livestock's diets. Only a very small percentage of them. The vast majority of these animals never see grass.
A lot of them don't ever touch it anyway.
No.
Oh, I'd rather be a carnivore than a vegan.
A carnival sounds fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds fun, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'd
Well,
rather
why
be.
not
Oh,
be a
they just
vegan
repeated it.
carnivore?
They're quite happy with that. Yeah. To be fair, I mean, a carnival does sound fun, but the problem is, how long does it last? It's a bit like when people wish for Christmas all the time. It's like, well, but if it was fun like all the time and you had that all the time, it wouldn't have the same whatever it is, magic or entertainment value that you think it does. It would soon lose the uniqueness if it was all the time. So I don't know. A carnival would be nice every so often. Don't see carnivals like the old-fashioned carnivals, like when they used to have like the floats going through your town and they'd all be like lit up and differently decorated. You don't see stuff like that anymore.
Well, there's a big famous one in Dublin, of course.
Oh, do you still have them? Oh, well, yeah, we used to have a local one of them every year, probably about this time of year, maybe slightly before, like bonfire night sort of time. And they used to be there when I was a kid. Because you'd throw like your 1p's and your 2p's onto like the milk float or whatever it was. Don't have anything like that anymore.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, in terms of what's going on in the chat, first of all, don't get the wrong idea that we're going to try and say that that you don't find meat, as you call it, tasty. We understand that you do.
Yeah,
Although,
I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer found human meat tasty. Taste was never, it's not like in court and they said, look, just answer this question. Was it tasty? And he said, yeah. And the guy, don't worry then. That was irrelevant. So, like, I don't think anyone's disputing that people do things because they enjoy doing them, and that's why they repeat those actions. Because I think that's pretty normal behaviour.
if I had to save my child or another animal, I'd choose my child. Well, I think most people would do that. That's kind of like an extremist emergency situation. Although there are a lot of people who would try and save both, of course, and there are quite a lot of documented cases where people have, brought whoever they found inside first out, and then went back in, to get the others.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it used to be said that if there was a child and a cat drowning in a canal, who would you save? And I used to say you'd probably save the one you reach first.
Well, yeah, I mean, and in these hypothetical situations, it's very similar to the whole we put you on an island with a pig. Would you break your sort of vegan values? And it's like, well, first of all, before I make any decision about anything, is there a guarantee that I get off the island? Same as what is the time span or what is the event that's stopping me from saving both lives? Because
Yeah,
if the island thing, if I get dumped on an island with a pig and there's not going to be a boat or a plane passing the island for 6 months, whether I consume that pig or not is irrelevant. I'm still dead. So unless you provide the full context of any hypothetical, it's kind of impossible to make it. Because if I'm going to be on an island for 2 days, then no, I'll wait. If I'm going to be on the island for the rest of my life, then I might as well keep the biggest company, because they're not going to stop me from starving to death even still. So the context is really important, even for a hypothetical. But when we get these ones about, like, you know, a dog or a child in the canal, well, why wouldn't you save both? I mean, what about if I put the hypothetical of, what about if it was your mum or your dad in the canal? Which one are you saving? It's ridiculous, right?
I used to say that I would hope that I'd come across the cat first, because the cat could be thrown onto the bank.
Oh yeah, cat straight on my back, kid under the arm, both out.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, like, you know, a cat is more capable than a human child.
Absolutely. To be fair, the cat only needs to use you as some sort of springboard, and they can probably
Yeah,
get themselves
yeah.
out of a canal.
Probably rip you to bits doing it,
Yeah,
imagine.
they jump on your back and jump. That's the closest you got to the bank. They'd be off you and running away.
Yeah, if you go back to the you know, the kind of desert island that we get asked for, if you had a human being and a rabbit, for example, and you thought there was a possibility that you might be saved, but you didn't think it was going to be very soon, it would actually make more sense to kill the human being,
Yeah,
because otherwise you might have to kill and eat both
yeah,
of them.
do both exactly that.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I mean,
because the
the
human
other
will last
side of it
longer.
is, let's just say that was the hypothetical. Who's more likely to find food out of the human being and the rabbit? The rabbit, because they'll be focused on their task. So follow the rabbit around and they'll find you something to eat. The human being will probably just sit there with their head in their hands. But these are all ridiculously silly hypotheticals that don't mean anything. But a lot of the time, yeah, there's no context about time limit,
Mm.
which is important. Because unless you've got a guarantee of being saved, every decision you make is pointless.
I imagine it'd just be very irritating for the person asking if you say, "Okay, well, let's have a few more details," because that kind of
Yeah,
ruins the gotcha, doesn't it?
that doesn't really work, no.
Yeah, kind of like, oh, you're
No, I
spoiling it.
used to quite like the response of, I mean, you don't get that question very often anymore, to be fair, but once upon a time that used to be quite a popular, well, what about if this? And I always used to just say whatever the animal was that they suggested. I'd just say,
Yeah.
look, the whomever would provide a better conversation than the one that I'm having now.
Here's a question for you, Andy. Because I got this yesterday, I think. Can't remember. I'm not sure what context. I don't think it was on the live, but somebody mentioned about the smartphones again. But
Right.
I've not heard that argument for months now.
You do still see it sometimes.
Okay, so
It's not so much about, I don't see it so much now about animal products. I see it more about just when you mention rights violations and they'll say, what about the cobalt, or what about this, or what about the mining? That's what I see it more often now. The whole,
okay.
you've got animal products in your phone. It still happens every so often, but I think the information is easier for people to find now.
Oh yeah, it got to the stage where people were saying, "You've got a cow in your phone" and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And obviously, nothing to do with like our petition or anything like that. But I think some of these bigger companies went to a bit more lengths to make this information easier to find, even if it was for allergen reasons.
And what's the latest with the petition? Is it still?
It still exists, and it'll exist forever until it either gets taken down by the website in question, or it meets the criteria and gets discussed in Parliament, which it's a long, long way away from doing. But the petition was only ever really set up for the non-vegans who complained about this situation. Obviously, the vegans have signed it because they'd want this information, but the emphasis really came from people keep making the accusation, and it's like, look, what more can we do than what we've done? We can only challenge these companies like you can.
Vegans can't survive in the wild. I wonder where the wild is.
Don't know.
In the wild.
In the wild in what, England?
Somebody had a steak today. I almost fell off my seat reading that.
Oh. I'm glad they told us.
I know.
Life would have felt a bit empty otherwise.
It would have been. Yeah.
But no, so how come Ronnie's not around tonight? What's he doing?
I got a friend over.
Ah, busy.
Yeah, surprise. I know. Nobody thought he had a friend.
Fair enough.
Vegans don't have friends.
Well, not usually.
Hmm.
But no, I mean, I'm quite interested now, whether we can find the entire version of this vegan song to see what it sounds like. Because it's hard to judge when you just read, a snippet of lyrics. It might be a really catchy song. And also we don't know whether the entire song is focused about being anti-vegan or whether it's just that one line.
We've been called a pair of fairies. We should have no fairyism on this live. That's a fairyist comment.
Very much so.
Because I like meat. Yeah, the thing about these comments about you loving meat, as you call it, or you like or love, we're not disputing that. We're just pointing out that that doesn't answer any moral questions. That's all. There are some vegan butchers now.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah. So you could become a vegan butcher, the first one in your town.
Yeah, you could. You could set the standard. I don't really know how that works, though, in fairness.
What?
I mean, like a vegan butcher. So, like, I mean, obviously, I can understand the products and stuff that they're selling, but like, is it still set out like a butcher's? Do they have like a counter and like the uniform and all that sort of stuff?
I think some have and some haven't, I think.
What, do you just spend all day like chopping up seitan or something? Like,
Well, I'm not sure if it's a carbon copy, So,
but yeah, I've not because I've only seen them like on videos. I've never visited one, and it'd be interesting. But yeah, I always wonder what sort of how well they do in terms of sales and stuff like that. 'Cause that's more niche even than like a supermarket, isn't it? It's very specific. But there are ones that keep opening up, so there must be the market there.
I'm not vegan because why would I be? Or I'd say peace, justice, non-violence. They're all pretty good reasons.
Yeah.
Burgers are good. Yeah, there's loads of plant-based burgers now. I don't know if you tried any of them, but it seems that whenever people talk to us about burgers and we point out the plant ones, nobody ever seems to have tried them, or they claim they have, and it was horrible, which goes against all the research that's ever been done.
Yeah, I mean, I still want someone to legitimately, as a non-vegan, go and review the one from what's it called? The McDonald's burger, but what's it called? Is it McPlant? That's it. Yeah, I want to, go and try it. Go and try it with an open mind, and if it's crap, tell us it's crap, but be genuine. But the research, to be fair, as Roger says, does kind of say that actually it's pretty tasty. I mean, I don't know, but the research does suggest that the vast majority of people have given it a thumbs up.
Yeah, plants won't ever taste like flesh. Well, they do, funny enough, including what do they used to do it with not cabbages, but what am I thinking of? Broccoli
Mm.
and also mushrooms, right? Some mushrooms are very kind of flesh, in terms of texture.
Yeah, yeah. And what is it? Is it chicken of the woods? That's the mushroom that they use as almost like a chicken replacement because the texture is very, very similar.
That what it was called. Well, that's a nickname, I suppose, is it?
Yeah, well, I don't actually know where the name, what the actual proper name is, but yeah, the name that sort of it's used is chicken of the wood. I'm sure it's chicken of the wood.
Now, here's a good one, I think. Plants supply oxygen for us to breathe. You take that away when you eat plants. No, that is not true. In a vegan world, there would be more oxygen supplying trees, for example. We would have a lot more reforestation. So, there would be huge areas of woodland created within a vegan world. So, in terms of that kind of environmental benefit and the the kind of cycle, Earth cycle, you might call it. Veganism would benefit that. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah. We've got quite a few guest requests, in fairness, if you want to start taking some on. There's 4 people waiting.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay. I'll just do them in order.
In order.
In order.
So, a couple of points here. Do you have to till up the ground, cut trees down sometimes to grow things? Especially if you did it in a mass way, like the whole world decided we're going to go all vegan. So, how many plants and animals do you think you're going to destroy by clearing enough space to create all this food?
We wouldn't
need to clear any
extra land. We'd gather 70% of the world's land by not farming animals.
So you don't have to clear any land to grow anything?
We'll give it back.
More than enough land
No,
now.
That's a lie. You have to clear land to grow things. For a mass population, you would have to. There's no way you're not going to clear land.
We've already done it.
At all. So say, for example, if you vertically farmed and you filled tower blocks, they already exist.
You talking about like irrigation type towers?
Essentially, yeah, literally huge hydroponic towers that grow everything indoors, environmentally controlled.
Oh, no, I'm not against that. I really am not. And the other point I would like to make is why wouldn't you just eat the real thing instead of eating something that's made to taste like the real thing? Why even make it taste like meat if that's not what you're going to eat?
Well, firstly, just to correct you, it's the other way around, right? So the vast majority of things that people enjoy the taste of are plants. That's why nobody eats flesh by itself. They season it or marinate it or put sauce on it or spice or whatever. It's the taste of plants.
No, wait a minute now. Some people do. I like my steaks rare, bleeding all over the plate. I'm good with that.
Right, okay, but for the vast majority of people, it's the taste of plants, right? But aside from that, the difference is that there's no rights violations in our food. And the foods that you're potentially talking about, i.e. the like-for-like plant-based versions of steaks, burgers, sausages, that kind of thing, they're more designed for people that are either in tight situations with time or for people that are transitioning into a plant-based diet. They're not like a staple for everybody. It's not like you're vegan, therefore you must buy this particular product every day. Like that, they're a choice. Most of those kind of things, like the Beyond Burger and all that sort of stuff, is kind of out of my price range on a regular basis.
Yeah, far too expensive.
It's out of most people's price range.
Yeah,
We've looked at vegan food before.
Those aren't our staple diet products or anything like that. Those are the minority. Those just get more marketing attention. You don't see an advert for asparagus.
Staple.
You don't see an advert for carrots. You don't see an advert for potatoes. It's just the way that the world is.
Can I go back to? Oh, he's gone, is he? I'd like to go back. Well, I would have liked to have asked about the difference between rare and raw. Because the guy likes bloody rare.
Yeah, but even in that, like I worked in Wetherspoons for a number of years, and even the people that liked their steaks rare, they still were seasoned whilst they were being grilled. They'd still have salt and pepper and stuff added to them on the grill, even if there was no sauce or anything else added. They would still be seasoned.
Yeah, it's like when people go, oh, if lions can, why can't I? But if you were invited by some lion friends to, for lunch, as it were, you wouldn't really enjoy the experience because you'll be just tucking into a freshly killed animal.
Hang on, Cal, you're a vegan, aren't you? I think.
I am indeed. How are you?
Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. I'll add another guest. I just didn't want to make it too unfair.
All right, it's okay.
Very, very pleased to meet you. I've heard you on other lives before. You're very articulate.
Oh, thank you very much, and you too as well. So, a privilege to be here.
Another bloody vegan, eh? I know.
Them damn vegans.
In that case, I'll accept 2 more. There we go. We've got 2 guests coming on.
Hi. How's it going? So I guess I'll just answer the question as it stands. I'm not vegan because I believe I have a biological nature to have an affinity towards meat.
Based on what science?
Based on what science?
Yeah, I mean, if you say that I believe ... you can justify anything because I believe murder is okay, so it's okay. I believe.
No,
If you
we
look,
don't have a biological affinity as in terms of the species as a whole. We do not have a biological affinity to murder.
right, okay, so what science makes us have a biological affinity for eating meat?
I'm sure I could pull. I mean, I haven't. I don't know any studies off the top of my head, but if you look around, we don't have look around to where we are at as humans today. We don't have an affinity to murder. It's by and large
Are you
outlawed.
are you
Well, let me finish.
kidding?
Let me answer your question. It's by and large illegal to do so in almost every nation on Earth, but we do by and large eat meat in almost every nation on Earth.
Right, and right now there's currently a genocide happening in Israel, and murder is everywhere that you look in every direction to the north, south, east, and west. So to say
So,
as a species, wait, let me finish. Thank you very much.
yep,
To say that
I thought you were.
as a species, we don't have an affinity for murder, that's just kind of no offense to you, but that's relatively laughable. I mean, murder is literally everywhere, all over the
I'm not.
world. So there's murder capitals of the world. And I mean, are you saying when you say a biological affinity, do you mean we can eat meat? Because nobody's disputing that.
So,
It just means liking,
to
doesn't it?
so yeah, yeah, liking, having a open inclination to it doesn't seem disgusting to me by and large, and not just me, just by and large across the entire human species. And on that note, again, by and large, humans do disdain murder. We have an insane population growth. If it was part of our biological desire to commit murder, then we wouldn't be growing as a species in terms of population. Um, so, yes, murder exists. Yes, murder is wrong, but it is wrong because biologically speaking, it would go against our idea to procreate and grow and expand the human race, which is part of our natural instinct to do.
Right, and I think if you look at human history, back when murder wasn't necessarily the least bit illegal, you have to say that murder is a ubiquitous part of the human spirit. People used to settle their differences by gunfights at dawn, or they'd settle their differences on the battlefield. I think it's a very sort of common part of the human spirit to be okay with murder. The reason that murder isn't as prolific as it was back then is because we've now made it illegal. So I don't think that people are necessarily don't have some proficiency for murder. I think that they avoid it because of the consequences, the legal consequences associated with it. But I think we're getting a little bit sidetracked here. I
No, we're
think
not.
well, I think that we are because we're talking about meat. But anyway,
Yeah.
I, yeah, I think that you're saying we were programmed to enjoy the taste of meat. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I think it's morally wrong. I think that
Yeah, I
we're
mean, what I was going to say is, are we
And
not
that's my
biologically inclined to enjoy sex? But we know the difference between consent and no consent. So,
absolutely.
so the moral factor overweighs that biological urge.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent way to articulate it. I think that we're
So you wanted to
genetically
go from talking to, you wanted to stop talking about murder because you wanted to talk more about meat, but now you also including to help back up your point now talking about sex.
Well, no, the reason that we didn't want to focus on meat is because veganism isn't a diet.
right.
So
Can I just interject there for a second? The
Well, no,
whole
because I'd like to respond to your comments about murder and what like it wasn't by and large illegal in history. I mean, that's blatantly not true. I mean, well, I'm not throwing this as a religious as a
for
religious
thousands
argument,
of
but
years it wasn't illegal.
in religious documents, it was. You're
Yeah,
talking about documents as far as
yeah.
1400 BC. Yes, murder was wrong in the human nature
Was it
going back as
illegal
unless it
far as
was
though?
in the
1400
name of
BC.
God, right?
Was it
Unless
illegal?
No, no, no. I'm
It
not
wasn't
even using
illegal
it in
though.
terms of God. I'm using it in terms of these.
I know what you're saying. I know what the
Okay.
text said, but we also have to think about things like the Crusades, where those texts were completely ignored when it suited a purpose.
100%.
Okay. So again,
And murder wasn't illegal. All of those times, it said it in a book that was written by men, "Thou shalt not kill." But
right.
yet,
Exactly. Exactly.
there was murder everywhere. And up until maybe less than 200 years ago, it was completely legal to settle your differences with another human being by a gunfight at dawn. Completely
It's
legal.
So
quite
I think
disappointing, though,
one
isn't
has
it?
to understand that murder isn't there's different variations of murder, right? And in some ways, murder. I mean, it depends how you define it, right? And I think by and large, the definition would be the unjustified taking of another human life,
Right.
or the Yeah, I'd say I think that's fair. That's justified taking of a non-legal.
Intentional justification of taking a
Right.
human. Yeah.
When you're talking about like duels, for example, most duels they don't even like happen. Most duels don't even result in death. Some do, of course, but in that way, according to that society, it was justified to the extent, if you're willing to wager your life.
Right.
That
So murder was
still,
legal.
if you were to hold on a second, let me just land the plane on this one. If the person you were supposed to duel tomorrow, you saw them on the street and decided to take out a weapon and kill them, um, that would be murder. That would be unjustified. It would not be accepted in society. So context does matter. And the general idea is, by and large, throughout human history, it is not okay in the raw form, is what I mentioned.
Right. Well, I mean, regardless, I don't want to get the conversation sidetracked, but murder is still everywhere and it's happening all over the
Correct.
place. And there's currently a genocide happening right now as we speak. So no offense, but to say that murder is not a sort of like ubiquitous thing within the human spirit, I'm just going to have to say that's completely not
There is
correct.
an archive
Anyway,
called
let's go back to the human affinity for eating meat. Just because something is enjoyed, I think that we're obviously as human beings, we're programmed, like he said. I don't want to sort of like piggyback on what his point was, but yeah, of course, as human beings, we're predisposed to enjoy sex as well. But rape doesn't negate the fact that rape is clearly immoral.
Yeah,
Do you
and I
know what
mean
I mean?
the point I'd like to make is in the UK, I think it was 94 or 95. You were within marriage, you were legally allowed to rape your spouse until we changed the law.
Up until
That was
under
always
100 years
immoral.
ago. Up until
Yeah,
under 100 years ago, yeah.
Right, but by and large, again, how human society has evolved to this day, that is morally reprehensible.
but the
By and
moral thing
large,
has
how
come
human, one
first,
second,
though.
by
This
and
is the
large, how
point.
human society, this is why it's different. By and large, how human society has evolved to this day, eating meat is not irreprehensible.
Right, okay, but appealing to legality isn't a good
No, not
moral argument
not
because,
legality, just morally reprehensible.
well,
Like
right, okay, but anyway, just because you're appealing to something, just because we're predisposed to enjoy something doesn't make it okay. People that are rapists are predisposed to enjoy rape. It doesn't make it okay.
well, by and large, I wouldn't say that people are rapists.
I don't know
But
what
by
you
and
mean.
large, people do
I don't
eat
know what
meat
you
and
mean
they're
by
okay
Yeah,
that.
with
but
that.
that's the legality that changes
Well,
that.
legality aside, I mean, look, I mean, you mentioned that there's a law that you could do something. I wonder how many people actually said, "Well, I can do it, so let me do it." It's just because something's legal doesn't mean it appeals to the humankind. If one day, I mean, Oregon did this, right? They legalized
Well,
all drugs. That doesn't mean
just
everyone
quickly.
started like injecting heroin.
The reason that law was brought in 1994, 1995, whenever it was because there was a sort of surge of women making complaints about their husbands doing exactly just that. That's why the law was changed. So
Oh,
it definitely
I'm
was
sure.
happening, and that's why the law was brought in. Because before that, it was legally okay to rape your spouse. That was okay as long as you were married. You could do what you want.
So,
Yeah, I think by the same logical framework of your argument, I think a person that has a propensity for being highly sadistic could say it's okay for me just to cause pain, anguish, and torture upon animals because I'm genetically predisposed to enjoy it because I do enjoy it. So just saying because we enjoy meat makes it okay to callously kill and brutally slaughter billions of animals a
there's
year.
been
I just don't think that's a good moral
630
argument.
mass shootings in North America this year already. That
Yeah.
doesn't count the non-mass shootings. It also doesn't count.
630 out of a nation of 350 million people.
Yeah, but these
That's
ones are
still
mass ones.
massive.
Then you've got the one-to-one ones. Then you've got the ones using knives. Then you've got domestic violence. Then you've got the sexual violence.
I mean, that's, you
Again,
cannot
out of a
argue with the
nation of
fact that as
350
human beings we're
million
predisposed
people.
to violence. You cannot say that as human beings we're not predisposed to all kinds of violence.
Oh
Of
no,
course we
100%.
are. So
You
that
see,
doesn't.
100%. I'm
my
just saying
point
by
was
and
So that
large,
doesn't make violence okay.
no, you're right. But by and large, again, evidence of this is the fact we still have a human civilization. If it was within all of our natures to go out and do the things the small amount of humans do, then we wouldn't have a society. We
Oh
probably
no,
wouldn't even be
a
alive.
large
Our
amount of
population wouldn't be
humans are
growing. We
violent.
wouldn't be living in a prosperous life.
No, a large amount of humans are violent. I think an eye-watering
Correct.
amount of men alone are supposedly meant to be rapists. Supposedly, as far as I'm told, statistically speaking. But anyway, just saying we're predisposed to enjoy something doesn't make it morally okay. So
Well,
I
the
don't.
real
Well, I'm
question would
saying
be
it
that,
doesn't make it's not morally not okay, is what I'm saying, because it's part of our biological nature to do such a thing by and large. Now,
Well,
look,
if
look,
it's not
here's where I'd say
okay,
you'd have a
it's not
point.
well,
okay.
you've changed there. You're now a biological nature. Before it was just about a feeling or, an affinity.
No,
If
yeah,
people,
affinity, biological affinity. It seems okay to me. Yeah, I didn't change.
so those people who've carried out the 630 mass shootings, if they had an affinity for doing
Mass
that,
murder.
But it doesn't fit in with who we are as humans, because especially in America, right? Because
Right,
you're
okay,
talking about
that's
650 out of 350 million people.
right. What you're doing
You
right now
can't
is
say they're an accurate sample size of the human population and what we find morally immoral. If you did that to me, I think you'd, no offense, be a little crazy.
yeah, okay, but what you're essentially saying is right now is because as a society everybody agrees with me, that's just appealing to popularity. That's a logical fallacy. That's not a moral argument.
No, I'm saying is this is how things have been as we evolve. Now, as we've grown and we've learned more, things have changed. Now, look, I'll concede this point. And all right, if it turns out that we start do having some type of like awakening of, hey, we shouldn't eat meat because it's wrong. It makes me feel bad. The fact I'm consuming a cow, and we start shifting away to maybe even create laws and cultures that are against that, then I'd say you'd be 100% correct. But I
yeah, well,
look
that
around
is the
everywhere
vegan
where I am and
project.
I look at history and
Yeah,
I
that
say
is the
that's not
vegan
the
project,
case.
though.
Yeah, I would say if I could just interject for a second there, I would say that we had human slavery for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years, and people argued the validity of that and the moral affirmation of that by saying, "Oh, but if everybody agrees slavery is okay. We've had it for thousands upon thousands of years." But obviously,
Not
that
not not every no, not every
no, can I,
nation
wait,
had
wait a
slavery. Not
second,
every
wait a
nation
second,
had
wait a second. No,
slavery.
you have to let me finish, right? So it was completely ubiquitous within human society, but eventually, we obviously educated ourselves and evolved morally past that and realized that it wasn't okay. So I mean, the arguments that you're giving for eating meat are the exact same arguments that people gave for slavery.
Yeah,
Actually, I
So
think the
all
argument you
all of
gave
that
really,
happened. There
and I
was
don't think
people
can
opposing
I just say
slavery.
can I just say one more thing? I think that you also said, if we evolve as a society and if laws change, etc., I'll change as well. I don't need to follow the law to know whether something's right or wrong. I
No,
don't need to.
law
I I
follows
I, don't-
morality, it always has, not the
I
other
don't.
way
I,
around.
right.
okay, so
I don't need the law to change for me to know that strangling a puppy is not
All
okay.
the
I don't.
time that the
I
vast
don't.
majority of people were pro-slavery, there was a small section of people, including the slaves, that were against it.
Right.
So the morality of being against an immoral action was always there until basically that balance got to a point where they're like, we better do something about that. And that's how every law is once upon a time brought about. The morality of the situation always exists first, and people start asking for something to be done about a situation that's already occurring.
And
And
I
that's
think
what
can I
we're
that.
doing
respond?
now.
Well, I would like you guys brought up 2 points already. Can I respond before y'all
Yeah, go
keep
for it.
adding
Go
more?
for it.
All right, thank you, appreciate it. The first I was being facetious, like thank you.
No, I appreciate
The
that.
first thing I want to say is I feel like they're two different conversations, but hopefully you guys won't argue with me on this one. Humans create laws. Well, all right, humans have culture. That culture drives laws. Would you agree?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
Okay,
think that
cool.
I think that
And
law.
hold on, I'll do one more thing. Maybe I'll go further back.
Could
Biology
I answer that
dictates
question?
culture. All right, yeah.
Yeah, I partially agree with that, but I think the legal and political system in the West has now become so rotten and corrupt that lawmakers essentially service their own needs and they're bought and paid for by
Okay,
others.
fine, fine. I think
And,
that's
and,
going away
and
from my topic. When it comes to slavery, when it comes to murder, like these are things that stem from culture, which stem from. Well, I'd argue it stems from biology, right? Yes, you're right. Government is giving laws to special interest groups so they can
right.
propagate yada 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 yada. But that's not what I'm talking about. But fine, okay. So culture. So we create our society based around our culture, based upon our beliefs, which I would argue is based upon biology. That's one of the responses I'll talk about when we're talking about laws. The second thing is the reason why slavery was deemed okay was because you would deem a person not human. once we started waking up and educating ourselves as, oh crap, they're actually human, they're the same as us, and we're treating them so bad, but they are literally human. Now our biological nature kicks in of saying, okay, we want to propagate the species, therefore that's why we got rid of slavery. That's where the change of laws come from, because before, like in America, African Americans was not viewed as humans. Once the people at the time realized that's not true, that's when the laws changed, because okay, now they're equal to us. They weren't, not now, they were always equal to us, and we were wrong.
Right, I would say that those are all kind of like details that don't really have anything to do with the logical framework of your
No, it does,
argument.
because you're using slavery as saying, well, it was okay. No. The idea was we didn't understand what a human was. Now we have a more understanding of what a human was,
Yeah,
which
but
goes back to my idea that by
you were
and large,
appealing to,
slavery was not okay once we get more information, because it goes against our biological instinct.
yeah, but you were appealing to the ubiquitous sort of like popular societal narrative, and the ubiquitous popular societal narrative for thousands of years was that slavery was okay. The reasons
Because
for
we were able to view humans as not human.
the reasons for why slavery was not okay are completely irrelevant, because you're still appealing to that same popularity. And I mean, I would argue that if you want to compare humans to cows, we're both animals, we're both mammals,
Correct.
we share about
Correct.
90% of our DNA with them. We're both
Correct.
sentient, we're both conscious, we're
Correct.
both intelligent, we're
Correct.
both with complex emotions, we both love our families, we both form bonds with other living sentient beings. I could give
And
you a I could give you a
I'm
grocery
happy you're
list
using
of reasons.
cows. If I can use a virtue of a lion.
I could give you a grocery list of reasons why we're similar to cows. We don't farm and kill lions for food, but I don't need to be comparable to another living sentient being to know that it's not okay to kill them, because they're another living, breathing, intelligent, loving
Yeah, and
sentient being.
the precise same prejudice and speciesism that once upon a time convinced people that other human beings were nothing more than slaves is exactly the same prejudice and speciesism that convinces
Exact
human
same
beings
logic.
today that cows or sheep or pigs or chickens are nothing but objects, nothing but slaves.
It's the exact same logic.
No, it's not, because
No,
I mean,
it's the
objectively
it's the
speaking, I mean, you
exact
said it
same
yourself,
logic.
we only share 90% of that DNA. That 10% of a DNA is very,
Is
very
irrelevant
vital.
when we're talking about
It's not
morals.
irrelevant.
Yeah, is it relevant to say that it's okay to kill them because of 10% DNA? Come on, man. There's no
Yes,
way
it
that
is. Yes, it
See,
is.
you must
It
be
is. Do you know
joking.
why?
You must be
How
joking.
this? How this? Let's be realistic here. All right, please, let's be realistic. By and large, how many humans have
Play the damn
ever?
show.
Sorry.
Sorry, my TV's being stupid right now.
Yeah. Where is it gonna go with this? All right.
I don't
By
know.
and
'Cause
large,
I mean, straight away off the bat, I'm thinking, well, think about chimpanzees, and we vivisect on them on a daily basis.
We keep them in
Right, but
cages
we're
and
different.
point and prod at them, and
So yeah, I
we share
mean,
almost 100% of our DNA with chimpanzees.
But hold on, that's also again going to my point, right? That'd be interesting. Chimpanzees, yes, they are more associated with us, and therefore we'd have more affinity to taking care of them. When it comes to like a fish in the river, like they're not as related to humans, so we really don't care at all. When it comes to like canines, for example, dogs, we actually evolved together, right? They helped us hunt. They helped us survive. They became part of their biological nature to trust us, and we became part of our biological nature to trust them. Also, for some reason, furry stuff is cute to us.
I don't think it was part of a biological nature. It just so
Yes, it
happened.
is.
How is it part of our biological nature? What does that have to do with our biology? Because we experience things historically with dogs. That has nothing to do with our biology.
It is. I think there's a term for it. I forgot what it was.
Tell me why that has to do with my internal biology. The fact that humans have had a
I mean, yeah, I mean,
a
I'm learning
historical
from this
partnership with
conversation
dogs.
about biology
How is that part of my
a
biology?
need
Come
to
on, guys.
enslave.
All right, so there's a
No,
term.
explain
Wait, someone
to
said
me
something
why
about
it's part of my
enslavement again.
biology. Explain to me why it's part of my biology.
So there's like it has a term. Maybe if I remember the term, there's a term for when two species kind of like evolve, like mutually together. I forgot what it is, but that applies to dogs or wolves, if you will, because at the time they're wolves.
Because we
and
spent time in
prehistoric humans.
companionship together.
Well, companionship, but also we were able to rely on each other for survival.
Right, but that has nothing to do with our biology.
Yes, it does.
Our biology is the fact that we share about 99% of it with chimpanzees and about 90% of it with cows, that's biology. Because
Right, but then
because we had hunting dogs for a long
But
time,
it-
it has nothing to do with
but-
biology. That's appealing to tradition.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
yes,
at the
yes,
end
it
of the day, we kind of exploit dogs, and the reason that we kind of, I don't know, domesticated them
exploited
in the way
us.
we
What are you
did
talking
was
about? They
because we
exploit
couldn't get
us.
away with it with lions.
exploit us, dude. Come on.
Who cleans up after them?
It
That's
was
gonna be the best
essentially
life on the
for our
planet.
benefit. If we could have got away with exploiting
got a point
lions
about
and domesticating them, we'd have done the
So
same thing.
human babies exploit us because we clean up their shit as well. Dude, come on, you're not even speaking
No,
logic.
because there's a biological relationship there, okay?
But
Human
that
babies
has
are.
nothing. But you haven't explained why it's anything to do with biology. You just keep
Well,
saying
I'm
the
trying now, but
biology.
yeah, you keep throwing other points. So
Okay,
look,
go for it then. Explain the
okay,
biological
so
aspect.
look, humans have over time, have developed noses that can tell the difference between something that's spoiled and something not spoiled, right? We have taste buds to develop if something is
All animals.
tastes good or is like poisonous to us and we
So do
shouldn't
all
eat it
animals.
or yeah, 100%, exactly correct. I'm not saying that these things are
Why
unique
do
to
I have a
humans.
biological connection to dogs then?
Well, I'm getting there.
Because if there's no biology, then you're just appealing to tradition, which is a logical fallacy.
No,
You're saying
it's
that
not tradition.
Guys,
spent
did
a
somebody
lot of
else
our
have a
time.
chance to speak? Because y'all been talking and ain't nobody else been able to say nothing.
Mate,
Can someone else have a chance to speak?
I didn't even know you were here, mate. But go ahead, yeah.
Okay, so first the thing I'm going to point out is a lot of people think that the vegans don't only eat meat. No, there's a difference between vegetarians and vegans.
Yeah.
Vegetarians will eat animal products like eggs and dairy and stuff like that. Vegans will not touch anything that's animal product. And a lot of people don't get that.
If it's avoidable, yeah.
Yeah, if it's avoidable. I mean, nowadays it's pretty hard to avoid that. See, now the reason I'm not vegan is because a lot of my favorite foods, such as cheese, burgers, steaks, chicken, stuff like that, it's
All the things there's plant-based versions of.
if I go strictly vegan, I'm not gonna be able to eat a lot of my favorite foods. There's something you said a while back saying
all the
how
things
the
you've just listed.
research
Wait.
says
Plant
how
versions of.
plant-based meats taste just like meat. No, they don't. I have tried several. I have tried several plant-based meats, whether it be burgers, jerky, whatever.
Right, okay.
None of it tastes exactly like meat. So whatever research you're saying says that it tastes just like meat is very biased research.
Because it doesn't appeal to your narrative, you mean? Because it doesn't appeal to your opinion, it's biased.
It doesn't taste right to me.
To you, right?
Okay,
So
I mean,
doesn't
that's
studies
kind
are
of
Meat
wrong.
their
personal
entire
preference.
life and they try a plant-based meat.
That doesn't
It's
mean
not
studies are
gonna taste
wrong
right.
because they're not. That doesn't mean studies are wrong because subjectively speaking, you don't think that they taste the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's for the
Because they
same
don't.
reason subjectively.
I don't care
speaking, I'll
what the
say they're
study
right
says.
behind
No,
it.
They
but
do
you're
not taste the
okay,
same.
but that's appealing to your own subjective opinion. That's also a
Have
logical
you ever
fallacy.
eaten an
It's
actual
called.
steak? Let me ask you something. Have you
Wait
ever
a
eaten? When was the
second.
last time you had an actual steak?
It's been so many years, my man. I'm proud to say. But
Okay, so
anyway,
yeah,
like
your taste buds are
appealing to your
going to
opinion on
change.
something is a logical fallacy. Also, it's called the appeal to subjectivity fallacy. That doesn't mean that studies
Taste
are
buds
wrong just
change,
because
okay?
it doesn't appeal to your narrative. I mean, I think that this the undercurrent of logic of this argument is about morality, and just saying I like the way that something tastes isn't a good moral argument because cannibals love the taste of human flesh. That doesn't mean murder is okay.
But by
It's
and large, we
cannibalism.
don't do that.
Okay,
So it is
remember,
immoral.
pointy
you
teeth
also appealing
in
to
your mouth.
popularity. That's not about morality. You're saying by and
Look,
large we, which is appealing to popularity. That's a logical fallacy. By and large we,
because
as a
popularity is
society.
determined by our biological nature, is what I'm
Okay,
talking about.
that's a logical fallacy. That's not a moral argument.
That's not a logical fallacy.
Google appeal
My
to
argument
Let
is,
me ask you something.
Google appeal to popularity fallacy, my friend. That's a logical fallacy.
dude, no.
Yeah.
Appeal to popularity is Taylor Swift does it, so now everyone's doing it. Okay, what I'm talking about is our biological nature.
popularity
If
is
it
the
was so,
same
Yeah,
thing.
one
I
sec.
mean,
Right.
let's
If
look at
it
it this
was,
way, right? I obviously enjoy eating because I've been vegan
Hello,
for
can you hear
10
me?
years now. So I enjoy my food, but that part is irrelevant. Even if I didn't, even if I couldn't find food that tasted anything like what I thought it should or any of that stuff, I'd still be vegan because it's the right thing to do. It's not about
All right.
me. It's not about my personal preferences. It's about the victims involved. And
my
so,
But let me
argument
ask
is
you, let me
Absolutely.
ask you
it's
something.
not moral or
You're
immoral.
saying
It
it's
just
wrong
is.
to kill living beings, right?
hang on. There's too many. Speak one at a time.
Way too many people in
Yeah,
here.
you're saying it's wrong to kill something that's alive, correct?
Somebody that's alive, yeah, that doesn't want to die.
You
Yeah,
do
I'd say that's
realize
wrong.
that plants are alive as well, right?
Yeah, but they're not
Exactly.
sentient.
Wait a
They
second.
do have a
Wait,
reaction when you
hang
eat
on.
them. They
Also,
do. They
That's
know they're being
separate
Wait a
from
consumed.
humans.
second. Wait a second.
are
If
you
you think
also
plants are alive, if you think plants are alive,
Living beings, whether it
if
be
if
plant,
if, if you think plants are alive, right? That's objectively, plants are alive. They're not living sentient beings. But let's say that they are living sentient beings for the sake of your argument. That's the best reason to be vegan because animal
Absolutely, yeah.
agriculture kills exponentially more plants, and it's also the leading cause of deforestation. What's forestation? Those are plants. Animal
No, dude,
agriculture kills
we're
about
saying
10
it's
times
not
more
moral or
plants.
immoral to
I'm
eat
just
meat.
saying, if you're saying it's wrong
yo
to kill
listen,
living
listen,
beings,
listen, listen,
it's
listen.
wrong, it's wrong to kill
Now
something
you're
that's
changing the
alive.
argument altogether. You're talking about you're appealing to plants being alive, and I'm telling you that's the best reason to be vegan. Kill exponentially less plants. So
Yeah.
I've directly addressed your argument. So don't.
Yeah,
fight.
yeah. If we found out that plants were sentient, like that was the scientific consensus from tomorrow, we would still be looking in exactly the same directions we are now for change, because
Absolutely.
those are the biggest
Dude, one
contributors to
deer
the
could feed
violation of
you for a
plants'
very
rights.
long time. I don't know what you mean.
Yo,
Yeah,
listen,
if you
listen.
that
Yeah,
one cow
can someone listen
can
to me?
feed a family of 4 for 6 months. Did you know that?
So
Yeah, but how
you,
many
Yeah,
so
so I
you
don't know
cows
what
does
only,
you
that
mean.
so
We're
cow
you
need
saving
only,
more
so
to
you
get
lives.
to
only
an
eat
adult?
beef. So you only eat beef and nothing else for 6 months. Yeah, right. Okay, my friend.
Some people do
Listen,
that, dude.
Okay,
Yeah,
let me
it's
ask
a
you
growing
something. If you
diet,
were
actually.
starving, if you
Yeah,
had
if you
no
want to.
food, say you had no food for 2 weeks, and the only thing that was available to you was a hamburger from McDonald's, would you eat it?
Well, how am I
Yeah,
buying it?
you're
One
appealing
minute.
to a
I'm gonna go get
survival
it myself.
situation. That's like
No,
asking
answer
me.
my
Because that's
question. Everyone else can
biology.
answer
No,
your
wait.
question, so you're
yo,
going to
quick
answer my
question.
question.
Quick
No,
question.
wait a second. You're appealing to a survival situation. That's like saying human murder is okay because I would kill someone in a war. I'm not in a survival situation, so it's logically
Well, that's
irrelevant
also
to the argument.
biology. You want to
But I'm
live.
just saying, if you hadn't eaten in
Exactly.
2
Listen,
weeks,
listen,
and
listen,
you
listen,
needed to
listen.
eat something, and all that was available to you was a hamburger from McDonald's, would you eat that?
Well,
I'd have to be put in a situation to actually formulate the answer to your question. I'm not in that situation, so I haven't
Hello, can
considered
you
it.
hear
And
me?
actually, did you know that that soybean farms contribute more to deforestation than beef farms do?
yeah, but do
Absolutely,
you know
Hear me?
what beef farms eat?
absolutely.
And now a
80% of
lot
soy.
of your vegan
Excuse me, can you
foods
hear
are
me?
made
Wait
from
a second.
soybeans.
Wait a second. 80% of soy is used for livestock feed. Vegans eat about 7% of soy. So once again, you're giving an argument for veganism, not against veganism. If you're saying soy is highly destructive, then the vast majority of soy is grown and utilized for animal
You
agriculture.
realize that humans
It's
have
also
teeth called canines, right?
right. You keep
Yeah,
changing.
vestigial leftover
You keep
from when we
changing
were
your
apes.
arguments here. You keep
I
constantly
mean, I
No,
mean,
changing
I'm
we're
your
just
li-
saying.
we're
No,
arguments.
you
literally
just
going
you
through
keep
my
picking apart
FAQ
my
page.
arguments. I'm giving you facts. I'm giving you facts.
Right,
No,
and I
no,
keep
you're
You
making
giving
do
us a
realize that
question
humans have teeth
quite
called
aggressively.
canines, correct?
yeah.
You
Dude,
know
I'm
that
on your
about
side, but don't
basically
So
yell. Like,
teeth.
honestly.
do gorillas that are also herbivores, but you keep
Do
changing
you
your
know what
argument
the
every two
difference of
Yeah,
a
seconds.
you're
Two
canine
literally
seconds
is?
ago,
going through the
two
bucket
seconds
list of
ago
How?
it was about
vegan.
soy. Now it's
How?
about canines. You're changing your
Kyle, you
argument
guys were doing
every.
it too. You went from slavery to
Yeah,
rape
but no,
Exactly.
we're
to
How
all
No,
else?
talking
something else. I
This
forgot.
is
when
why
about
nobody
the same
votes for
thing.
vegans.
I mentioned
Because vegans are
slavery,
the
I was
most
rebutting your
delusional
argument.
people on the
When
planet.
I was arguing slavery, I was rebutting your argument, wasn't I? That wasn't my argument. I
Hey,
was
I didn't bring up
rebutting your
slavery
argument.
into this. You guys brought up slavery. I don't usually bring up slavery in discussions. So.
RVL has been waiting quite a long time to say whatever they've got to say, so I think we should give them that opportunity.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, question. So you drink water, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hope so.
So, aren't you basically taking away a
this
fish's
isn't
home by
about the
drinking
fish's
water?
home, is it? You didn't wait all this time to ask about the fish's home.
Also, doesn't your body function better with meat?
No, it functions better with plants.
Yeah.
Well, not really.
Well,
No,
yeah.
studies show that it does. So not really isn't really a good rebuttal, but studies show that it does. Yeah, I mean, I think that despite being 1% of the population, so many of the number one athletes across multiple sports are vegan, despite being 1% of the population. So vegan's optimal for health. There was a recent study done actually just this year by the University of Bergen in Norway, who's one of the sort of top tier universities in Europe, about plant-based diets, and they put a number of people on X percentage of plant-based diets, 20%, 40%, 60%, and they measured their health markers over a period of time, and they concluded that the more plant-based your diet is, the better your health markers are, all the way up to being fully plant-based. Plant-based eaters have the lowest comorbidities, and they have the lowest risk of all-cause mortality, meaning the lowest risk of death of any medical condition. So no, your bodies are very optimal on plants.
I mean, all of that is irrelevant to the fact it is neither moral nor immoral to be eating meat.
Well, it is. It's immoral to
immoral.
violate the rights of someone else.
It's immoral to take a life.
They're not someone. I'm sorry, they're not
They
someone.
are someone.
The
They
whole
are. They're an
premise.
individual.
Wait. The whole premise of the whole premise of morality at an elemental level, the construction of morality as a concept, was based around the framework that it's wrong to needlessly take a life. Right. So if you're saying that it's moral to needlessly kill animals, that's just objectively wrong within the logical and moral framework of what the concept of morality and immorality is, right and wrong.
Sorry, can you repeat that? Wait, sorry. I don't mean, but can you repeat that? Actually, I feel like I lost track of some of that.
How much did you hear?
No, I heard you. I wasn't fully I was like listening, but then I was like thinking as you were talking, and then I feel like I lost your train of thought while you were talking.
Okay, well, the logical framework of morality
Right.
at an elemental level, the reason that the concept of morality was constructed in the first place was based around the ethos that it's wrong to needlessly take a life. It's wrong to cause suffering. It's wrong to cause pain. It's wrong to exploit. It's wrong to do things to people that you don't want to be done to yourself. Right? That's what
Human
morality.
life. Human life.
Not any life.
No.
Hey,
No,
can you guys
Because
hear me?
by and large, we still do it, and by and large, we still eat the fruits from it. You can't have fruits. You can't.
So why is it just human?
Hello.
What is the moral difference between a human and an animal?
So, hello, Carl. Sorry to cut you off, but you're a vegan, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So, one quick question. So, as humans, some of us, most of us eat meat like pigs, chicken and cows, right?
Yeah.
And you vegans are getting pissed about it, right?
Well, it's not.
Like, wait. I'm not even finished. Well,
the question.
some of us people hate when we eat pigs, right? Why are lions, crocodiles, all of these animals not crying about eating humans, right?
Can you explain to me? Do you think it's okay?
Listen, it's simple. It's
Hey,
Do you want me to answer your
don't
question
interrupt
or
Cal.
not?
Hey, don't interrupt Cal.
because ain't no way
do you want me to
we
answer
are
your
crying
argument
about
or not?
animals, but
I mean, you keep asking questions. Do you want me to actually argue them, or do you just want to talk?
it's not that I want to argue with you, but it's the truth. Like, we are crying about animals dying, but animals don't cry that we are dying.
It's not the truth whatsoever. Appealing to lions will, if lions see another lion as
Second of all, sorry to disturb you again, but
Bro,
they'll
quit
kill them
interrupting him,
for
bro.
it. Does
Okay,
this
listen.
justify me murdering another human?
Hey,
Appealing
just
to lions is just
listen.
laughable.
We are also
real quick,
not eating meat for the taste. We are eating
real
because
quick.
it's normal.
Real
You know?
quick, I just wanted to interject here. So, first of all,
It's
Cal,
okay. It's okay.
I'd
Tell me.
eventually like a little bit of a one-on-one with you. My name's Dean. I'm a philosophy major. I study ethics. But I just thought I'd interject you real quick. So Pardu. So first of all, I just wanted to like denote that this isn't really like an argument against veganism. So if you're saying like, well, like we shouldn't be vegan because like, animals don't like cry or get sad when like we die. Well, I mean, would you like under like that framework, would you say it's okay to murder babies because babies don't like cry or get sad when like you are
Yeah, but animals don't regret eating baby
Sorry to
humans.
interrupt. I need to pop off, but I appreciate the conversation with
Okay,
you guys.
thank
and
you.
we'll
Thank you very
speak
much
again.
for joining.
It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise. Take care.
Fucking hell.
There, Cal, I'll let you run this out with him, but then I would like to have a bit of a discussion with you if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Listen. It's simple physics.
This has nothing to do with
Most of us don't care about animals dying, right? So those animals don't care about humans dying. It's simple as
a
that.
lot of humans also don't care about humans dying. That doesn't mean human murder is okay.
Animals eat humans though, like crocodiles.
Right, and humans also kill each other, but humans also kill each other. That doesn't mean I have
It's
to be a
called
murderer.
murder, you know. Death is the thing,
Humans,
man. You know, animals are killing each other. Humans are killing humans. There is nothing we can't do.
does this justify me murdering another human because other people are doing it? Well, other people
I
are
did
killing
not even
humans.
say
Some
about
are
human
killing-
murder. I'm saying that
Well,
we
you
are
just said
crying
animals-
because
you just
we
said
are killing animals. But
you just said animals kill humans, so why isn't it okay for humans to kill animals? Okay, by that same
it's the
logical
same
framework.
thing.
By that
But
same
like
logical
4
framework,
billions a
humans
year,
are killing
4
other
billion
humans.
years
Does this
ago, we were
justify me being a
monkeys.
murderer?
We were made of gorilla and monkey. You know.
Right, okay. Listen, Dean, I'd love to, if you have anything to say, man, jump in, please. I'd love to.
And also, listen.
Okay, I don't.
Do you know?
And then I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm just like I'm just gonna let this play out like until this guy like leaves or gets kicked or something because I'm actually looking for
my
it.
IQs,
yeah,
my
I mean-
IQ
Kicking
points are
because I have the
fluctuating
right.
every
Keep
2
kicking
seconds.
because I said the truth. And
Honey,
also, do you
I
know
know,
these
because
two?
you're not
Listen,
highlighting
listen,
your
listen, 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 listen,
Can you
listen,
Please
listen,
just
listen.
kick this
It's quite
moron,
boring.
please, because he's actually
More, cry about it. Don't cry. Just it's okay, it's okay. The truth hurts. I know, I know. It hurts.
listen,
Keep
listen.
on having a cry about it. Goodbye.
Mr. Party or whatever. I'm like anti-vegan. I think veganism is bad. I think it's flawed. I think it's contradictory. But like I'm actually just up here to engage in a good conversation with him, and like you're just kind of like being like a bit like belligerent, interrupting, and you don't really sound like you have that many brain cells.
Listen,
So I'm
I
just gonna-
don't hate the
You're just
vegans. I just hate the vegans.
You're just being abrasive and talking nonsense, and you don't have any interest in arguing.
What do you
these
mean I'm
things,
talking
so-
nonsense? It's the truth. Animals eat humans. Humans eat animals. It's simple
and
as
I
that.
Right, and I just addressed that. Humans also kill each other. Does this justify me being a murderer by that logical framework? Yes or no? Right, okay, thank fuck, he's gone. Anyway, sorry, my friend.
I
Please
think we
please
got as
go
far
ahead.
as that was ever going to go.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so-
I apologize. I'm all ears. Go ahead.
No worries. I debate on here every day. I run a pretty big platform, and that's about how 75% of the conversations go. So it's all good.
Yeah, that's my
Anyways.
experience as well.
So like I have a little bit of a background with veganism. I was ethically vegan for about like 2 years. I could never like come to terms with, like practical veganism. But then about like a month or two ago, kind of put some critical thought into it and found veganism to be a bit contradictory. So there's like a couple notes that I'd like to touch on. So like one of them is going to be like property rights, but we could kind of get into that in a bit. But like first of all, I mean, I just think that it's going to be a bit like more intuitive to be at like the like maximum maybe like a vegetarian. Via the means would like you classify like a cow and a human to have the same amount of like intrinsic moral value, like the same rights, etc.
I wouldn't say that they have the same intrinsic moral value. I don't think anybody's arguing that cows should have the right to formal education or cows should have the right to receive government benefits if they're not working. We're just saying that they have the moral relevancy to be alive, the moral the moral liberation and moral relevancy to actually be alive and have the freedom to live their lives. We're not equating humans to cows circumspectively.
Let me restate myself. Would you say that cows and humans have like the same right to life?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So like, and then I think this is like where the problems would arise. So like on one notion, I mean, obviously like what do we classify as a violation of like the right to live, right? Like we classify it as generally speaking as murder, right? An unjustified unaliving of another individual, right? So it's like under your framework, if you'd like bestow the same right to life to a cow as you would a human, I mean, then we're basically going to be seeing the term murder applied in like an analogous sense. So like my question to you is like, would you be friends with someone that eats meat?
Well, I'd like to just address your sort of like precursor there to begin with. I think that the terms murder and slaughter are used interchangeably within human language. Slaughter also refers to killing humans. And I think that it just follows logical consistency to say that within the spectrum of human language, we use the terms murder and slaughter interchangeably. So I don't disagree with the fact that that killing an animal is murder. It's unnecessarily taking the life of another sentient, intelligent, conscious, or a grocery list of comparisons to humans. So yeah, I do think it is murder. Slaughter and murder are used interchangeably. Would I be friends with non-vegans? No, I was myself. I've been a vegetarian. I've not been a vegan for actually that long myself. I was a vegetarian for 20 odd years since I was a little kid. So I've been on the fence myself. So for me to say I wouldn't be friends with anybody who wasn't a vegan would be incredibly hypocritical on my end, having been a long-term vegetarian myself. But that being said, the only reason I was a vegetarian was out of pure ignorance to the reality of things like the egg industry and the dairy industry. So if somebody wasn't a vegan, it doesn't mean I don't have any interest in them. But if I then showed them what I knew, if I educated them in the things that in the knowledge that I've acquired over the last couple of years, and I showed them literally what I know, and they chose to do nothing with that, then I wouldn't have much interest in that person, because I pride myself on being an individual that surrounds himself with good human beings. And also, if somebody cares about animals, but they just have a flagrant sort of like lack of care and compassion and respect for humans, likewise, I wouldn't have any interest in that person. I've only got interest in surrounding myself with inherently good people. Hope that answers that.
Oh yeah, well, like I mean, more so like where I was like trying to go with that was like, okay, like under your worldview, you'd be friends with a murderer, and it's like, you know, like the way that I'd look at that. Well, if like there was an individual that existed in society, that had like, you know, like killed someone, killed multiple people, or like more so even paid for the killing of an individual, right?
Yeah.
This is someone that I wouldn't associate myself. I wouldn't be friends with them. This would make me incredibly emotionally distraught, and I would think they're a terrible person that should be condemned by the full extent of the law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, I got a phone
So,
call.
see, I mean,
Anyways,
so
so
I've
then
been
it's like,
vegan for 10 years and I've still got non-vegan friends. So like that's definitely not a problem. And you know, some of those friends aren't just people that I have no choice but to speak to, like my family and stuff. We're talking about people that I only know on the internet and choose to be friends with. But I suppose the difference between those potential things. Sorry, I forgot what I was going to say.
I can interject there for a second. I would say that the two things aren't quite comparable. It's a bit of a false equivalence, because I think the normality of eating meat is sewn into the tapestry and the fabric of society from birth. I think that we're taught initially from birth killing a human being
Yeah,
is wrong. Murder is wrong, whereas killing animals is right. So to sort of like deprogram someone from that is far more problematic, because it's woven so deeply into the fabric of society. So I think that equating those two things is a bit of a false equivalence.
Yeah, in
okay,
the sense that
this is
this is
like
what
the
I was about
same
to
way
say.
that like this
In
is
the
like the
sense that
same.
as a young kid, you're automatically taught that, you know, doing not just necessarily even something as bad as murder, but any real negative action towards another human is a wrong thing.
Right.
Whereas from a young age, you're kind of indoctrinated to think as long as it's not a dog or a cat or a rabbit or another animal that you might consider a pet, it's kind of free will to do whatever you want as long as you don't get caught. And people just do this all the time. This is normality.
Right.
So yeah, you're talking about an indoctrination of an entire generation or an entire
A
lifetime
deep one as
versus
well.
someone knowing their whole life that that's actually wrong.
Right. So I get you. Yeah, and this is like the same way that like, you know, I've kind of came to grips with it, and I don't think it's such like a problematic issue. I think that like it's not a false equivalency. Like once again, under your worldview, these things would be analogous, so an equivalence could be made. But it's more so like the response to like how you would say, oh well, you wouldn't be friends with someone that, you know, murdered you know, some like your neighbor, but you would be friends with someone that would like murder a cow. And I definitely think like an adequate response to that would be just like the socialization or the normalization of like murdering a cow in comparison to a neighbor.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good response. I think that makes sense. That's kind of like how I've addressed that same issue.
Yeah.
But then
Can I ask a question, just out of interest?
go for it.
What made you walk in the opposite direction of veganism, if you don't mind me asking?
This is going to be property rights. This is going to be property rights. Okay. So, do you mind if we touch on that? Is that something like you're
Yeah, go
familiar
for it.
with? Are you kind of like
Yeah, fire
familiar
away.
with like property rights?
Fire away, yeah.
Okay, sweet. So, like, under like libertarian property rights, which is like, like generally accepted at least as a base plate for like all theories of property rights, we're going to be looking at like a theory of entitlement. And like a theory of entitlement, like one of the more popular ones is by this guy named Noziak. And basically what it states are like these three principles on how you acquire property, transfer property, and then like how to deal with individuals that like break these rules, right? And generally when we look at like how to acquire property, right, it's either going to be transferred to you, or you're going to like, find land that no one is using and like take up an appropriate amount of space while leaving like, some left for others. Like that's like a general rule, right? And like, this could kind of be extended into multiple ways. Like if someone's using land, you obviously can't just walk on it and take it. Someone owns land, the only way that you could take it is by transfer. And like you could acquire new land that is previously unowned by anyone, right? And like when I think we're talking about this and like the state of nature, well, what we're going to observe is, well, like what if there's some like property in which a squirrel has like a burrow on, right? Would it be like immoral for you to go on said property and build a homestead?
I mean, I think that nobody argues the fact that veganism isn't moral perfection. Do you know what I mean? Being a vegan isn't about moral perfectionism. You're still going to do some kind of harm. I think that the purpose of the invention of veganism as it is defined by the people who literally invented it is about the pursuit of causing as little possible harm as one can within the understanding that, to sustain human life, some harm is going to be caused. So I think if it's about causing harm and destroying habitats and all that stuff, you can either do one of three things. You can do no harm whatsoever and you can die, or you can choose to survive and you can do as little harm as possible, or you can choose to survive and you can do as much harm as you possibly can. So I choose to do the second one.
Right. And like, yeah, no, that makes sense. But like this would like be like an internal contradiction within your framework, right? Like I do understand like your idea of like minimizing harm. However, this like would be a contradiction in the sense of this. So like I'll just kind of like sum it up, explain it. So like you're basically saying for moral value to be entailed, you must be a sentient being. Like most animals are sentient, therefore most animals will have moral value. Moral values based
I'm
upon
not
the
saying I
ability.
don't care about plants. I'm not saying I don't care about plants as well.
Oh yeah,
I'm
no,
not
you're
saying.
good. We could just pretend to like animals. That's fine. And like, I mean, that's just veganism. You know what I mean? That's fine. And then like, then above that, in order to be like a moral agent, you must possess sentience, right? And then moral agency would bestow rights in the form of negative and positive and property rights. Then therefore, this would just entail like if you were to try to like acquire property in which is previously owned by a moral agent, you are doing something that is immoral, right? So therefore, you shouldn't do that. This is why we do not like just raid people's houses and call them our own, etc. And the only way that you could acquire new property is by previously unowned land. If it would be entailed that animals would have moral agency, it would be entailed that animals would have property rights. So therefore, it would be immoral to build on land that is quote unquote owned by animals, such as like a squirrel's burrow. So like therefore, you have a contradiction in the sense that you wouldn't do this to a human in their property, but you would do this to an animal in their property. So it seems as if like a squirrel and a human wouldn't have the same moral agency.
I don't think any land is inherently owned by any person or animal. I think that the earth's here for all of us to enjoy. I think that I work within the framework of laws within that sense because I don't want to go to prison, but I don't have the belief system that that land over there belongs inherently to a squirrel or belongs inherently to a human. I think it involves to both, and I think that in order to live, safely and warmly, I think that certain animals will burrow holes. And I think that as human beings, we're a little bit softer, so we build houses. And I think that you just do the best that you possibly can. I don't really see the moral contradiction there.
Yeah, I mean, if I could interject here, did you say when you first joined that you were studying philosophy?
Yeah, I'm a philosophy student.
Have you ever read any Tom Reagan?
I don't know who Tom Reagan is.
Okay, so Tom Reagan is kind of the pioneer, I suppose, of what we consider the animal rights theory.
Yeah.
And in this particular situation, what we're talking about now in terms of say like property rights and building a house on land that could be inhabited by other beings, that kind of thing, he would say that at the moment, you know, we'd have to draw that line at where we are in pencil. But in the future, let's just say hypothetically 50% of the world become plant-based and huge amounts of land have started being rewilded because we no longer need to grow plants on them to feed livestock, for example, then we'd have places to cohabitate without kind of disrupting one another. There would be an option to do something differently, which would reduce that harm to nil or absolute minimum. But at the moment in time, we haven't got all of those options available. So whatever we decide to do, we do it in pencil so that we can rub it out in the future and write the new thing.
I didn't exactly track that well. However, we're just like I'm more so kind of just like touching on like the basics of property rights here, and like these generally like aren't contended by anybody. Maybe like the theory of property rights is, but like like these.
Can I just ask? Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but I was just wondering. The initial question was what took you away from veganism, and it sounds like, if I've understood it properly, it sounds like you're saying veganism isn't moral perfection, and you're still going to cause some harm. So therefore, I went away from it. Is that accurate?
Well, we're just gonna see some like contradictions in this sense, and I think like another theory with like less contradictions in veganism would just be like holding to particularism and holding like a conjunction of sentience plus humanity, and then still having like some value for sentience. Like I think it's wrong to like kill animals, but maybe not. Like I want to like bestow them property rights, or I don't think that like like the extraction of cow's milk is morally wrong, things along those lines. But just like back on the property, just real quick, because I just like I want to understand like what I want you guys to understand what I mean when I talk about like property rights, because I don't feel like that's that strong of a point to contend. So like there's like we have like it's more so like an institution of property rights. So like the core of it is basically the right to decide what to use a good what use a good is put to, right? Like there's going to be like the right to possess, control, use up, modify, destroy, sell, give, bequeath the good, etc. Right? And like this just arises out of the problem that we have scarce resources, limited resources, and like what use we should put these resources to and how we should go about it. It's just like the problem of scarce goods, you know what I mean? And there's like a couple ways to resolve the problem of scarce goods. And like this is like all possible ways. So like number one, you could like fight over them. Like number two, you could just use any scarce good when you see it, but no fighting. Number three, you could just vote on the use of scarce goods. Number four, you could just take turns with the scarce goods. Number five, you could just, everyone's utilitarian, all agree on the highest utility use. And number six, each good is assigned a specific decision maker and everyone else's respects that agent's decision, right? So like 1 through 5 all entail like a lot of problems. And then number 6, where each good is assigned a specific decision maker, this is just property rights. So like you like would inherently agree with the idea of property rights, and I don't think this would be that smart to contend, right? And then like this would just be where the contradiction would arise inside of veganism, because I don't think that we would necessarily grant property rights to animals to the same degree that we would humans, and this would just be like counterintuitive to your like theory of ethics.
Right. I think that I yielded at the start that I don't think we should be granting animals exactly the same rights as humans, though. So I think that theory that you're articulating works within the framework that we understand animals and humans to be of equal value circumspectively. Nobody's saying that. We're just saying we both have the right to live. Again, I don't think that animals should be given all the same rights as humans. Babies don't have the same rights as adults for that very same logical reason. So I think that the contradiction exists if, number one, vegans contend that veganism is moral perfectionism, which not a single, sorry, that's my dog, not a single vegan actually does.
We're talking about moral value. We're talking about like rights that would be entailed by moral value. Like for instance, a baby would have the same moral values like an adult human, and like they're like we're talking about moral rights specifically. I think a baby has the same moral rights as an adult.
A baby doesn't have the same rights as an adult.
A baby would definitely have the same like moral rights as an adult, like the same like protections from infringement, which would basically be like the decisive, like control of like negative rights under like a Kantian framework. So like
Right,
I
but
would definitely think that a baby would have the same like negative rights as an adult, 100%.
no, I wasn't talking about moral rights. I was more talking about like societal and legal rights. But within that same reason, we aren't arguing the fact that we should give those to animals as well. But I would contend that within that same sort of like framework, I think the animals also have that same moral, that same moral value as the way babies are in comparison to adults. I think that, of course, babies looking at it from a moral vantage, looking at it from a moral vantage point, of course, babies have the same sort of moral contention as adults do, but so do animals by that same logical framework.
Okay, so then therefore, like we would observe like property rights being bestowed to like animals to the same degree as, like we as humans, because this would just be entailed by their moral agency, unless like there's like a descriptive difference,
I wouldn't say
unless like there's
property rights are directly comparable to the right to live, because if you're talking about property rights, you're talking about the rights to land, whereas the right to life isn't exactly the same thing as that. And again, it comes back to the sort of
entailed by the amount of moral value, right? Like just like the moral agency. So like we've like already kind of like touched on. So like I mean we have like a couple. So what we have is three different types of rights. We have negative, positive, and property, right?
right.
And like all these like three like different types of rights would exist within like this general scope of like moral endowments or protections, right? And like these would just all be comparable to the degree of moral agency observed within an entity, right? So if like we have two entities with the same level of moral agency, well then they're going to have the same level of all of these rights. So therefore, I think it would be like a bit contradictory for you to state that an animal would have the same like moral agency / values like you or I, but then contend that they shouldn't be granted, or they should be granted a lower level of like say property rights. Because that'd just be like a contradiction in the sense this is basically like you saying, well, like I'm just as morally valuable as you. However, you have more like rights than I do in like a moral sense, and that's just like directly contradictory.
I'm not sure that I see the direct contradiction here, because I'm not saying that animals have the same sort of societal value that humans do. So that would be where the contradiction would lie. But I haven't contended that at all. In fact, I've yielded
What do you mean
quite
societal
a few
value?
times that humans. What?
What do you mean societal value?
No, I mean value to society as a whole. I mean, humans can service human society in a way that animals can't. Humans can construct buildings. Humans can educate other humans. Obviously, animals don't have that value. So I'm not trying to contend the fact that humans have more moral value to humanity circumspectively. I'm just saying that animals have the right to live because of their, because of all the
rights wouldn't arise out of societal value though. Like that's what I'm touching on. Like moral rights don't arise out of societal value like at all. Like proponed utility to society does not dictate like the level of one's like rights. So, right? Like you know what I mean? Like once again, like I mean we could just imagine.
I'm not contending that either. I'm just saying I'm trying to sort of like in a roundabout way tell you I don't think that animals are directly valuable to humans, but on a moral basis they have the same right to life. For the same reason that, say a baby has the same right to life to an adult, a baby isn't as valuable to society, in baby form at least anyway, isn't as valuable to society as an architect, for instance, or an engineer, but a fully grown.
It's not like what we're talking about though. Like we're seriously like we're only just talking about like moral value in correlation to moral rights. Like this is like all that we're talking about. It doesn't matter how much other individuals value. It doesn't matter what you provide to the individuals around you. We're talking about like this, like the innate value in which we as like people, as defined under like philosophical context of personhood, would like be endowed because of like our like sentience, right? Because I think we agree on the premise that like moral value is going to be bestowed by ability to deploy sentience, and then what would follow from that would be like these moral protections or moral rights, and then we'd have three categories that would be just intrinsically granted: negative, positive, and property rights. These are going to be like the three categories that are going to be like one-on-one, like completely like correlated to like our level of moral value. Right, and then if you're saying that once again two entities with the same level of moral value, we should see like an analogous correlation of property, negative, and positive rights. However, like you've conceded to the fact that we would not observe that within animals compared to humans, therefore you'd have contradictory logic. right? And then like when you bring up like societal value or like value to other individuals, all of this doesn't matter because it doesn't have any like logical like implications on like the correlation between these moral rights and moral value. It's just like that's just like a completely different conversation, you know?
In terms of inherent moral value, I'm still not sure I see the contradiction. What is it? What is the trait between humans and animals that makes it morally reprehensible to kill a human but not an animal? What is that trait?
So, like, first of all, like I've already like told you, I hold to the premise that it's going to be wrong to unalive an animal, right? I still don't think that animals are going to have like as much moral
You
value
still
as
don't
us.
think so? So you
Wait,
still don't think that's okay?
But
oh
this
yeah,
is the part that I
no,
don't
I don't,
understand.
I
So
don't think that that's
if
going to be like
veganism
one
was
second.
not
I could explain
perfect
this.
enough,
I'm still not seeing the contradiction here
why
at
would you
all.
I
regress?
mean, I've tried to explain it to you a couple times. Let me try again. So yeah, then also like I'm just going to be
No,
particular.
I think you're explaining this sort of underlying premise of I don't think you're no, I don't think you're explaining the contradiction well.
Okay, yeah, you're probably right. I'm probably not explaining it the best. Let me try to like make myself more clear.
What is it that's contradictory about the vegan ethos? Very simply.
And also, aside from that, if that is the case, and you're someone that's got a great understanding of this, would it not be better to try and look at a solution to that rather than like an abandonment and regression?
Oh well, then no,
Yeah,
the solution is
that's
just to
what I
hold
think.
to like yeah, no, the solution is just to hold to like a conjunction for like a higher level of moral value within humans of humanity plus sentience, and then hold some base level of value to sentience alone. And this is going to be the solution that will lead to like less undesirable outcomes, like absurdisms or contradictions. So there's a solution, but like more so, I'm just trying to get you guys to see the contradiction first. So let me try to explain this. So you're saying value equals rights. Do you accept this? Moral value
To
equals
life.
moral rights.
To life, yeah.
So that statement alone is contradictory, right? Because
It
it's not
depends what you
it's not
it
only
depends it depends no, it depends what you define by value, because I think the basic premise of morality is based on unnecessarily causing death, pain, anguish, despair, exploitation, death. So it depends what you class by value. I don't think an animal has to have any value to have the right to life.
Oh, wait, so no, that's true. So not true, sorry. So moral value, like all this is denoting is that this is an entity that, you know, you could have like unjust aggressions upon, right? And then like we would just categorize this as, well, unjust aggressions can exist because they hold moral value. And the underlying premise of like all ethical frameworks generally boils down to unjustly infringing upon desires, right? Or unjustly infringing upon like some like form of subjective experience. And like this is why we would see like vegan ethics saying, well, we have desires, we have subjective experiences, animals do too, therefore they would have the same like value. So now we're just stating cow, human equals same moral value. What's entailed by moral value, property, negative, and positive rights. So I feel like, are you disagreeing on the notion that property, negative, and positive rights are entailed by moral value?
I don't know. Again, I think I've already explained that I don't necessarily believe that any being has property rights over any plot of land on Earth. I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't necessarily agree with the premise of property rights at an elemental level.
So then what would you propone as like a better solution to the problem of scarce resources? Because like now we're just gonna have
Animal
like a debate.
agriculture is the thing that's causing scarce resources. So the
What's that?
solution is animal agriculture is the thing that's causing scarce resources.
Oh,
So I
no,
think
no,
that
no.
veganism is the solution for that.
Oh no, that's not what's causing it. So the problem with scarce good is like it simply just boils down to the fact that the world contains various goods, and deriving value usually requires interacting with the goods in some tangible way, and then many of these interactions are like incompatible. Not all the potentially valuable uses can be realized, and then humans often disagree in their priorities. And the problem would be which valuable uses of a good shall be made and which shall not. So like the amount of goods on Earth is not infinite, it is finite. And then we need to be using these resources in the most valuable way. And then which valuable uses of
The
good shall
opposite of animal agriculture. Animal agriculture is using them in the least the least productive and tangible way. The animal agriculture is that which is causing the world's
and,
hunger
and I mean,
bubble.
and I mean,
We're not
I'm really
talking. We're not
struggling
talking
here
context
because the
specific.
things that you're
We're not
talking
talking.
about,
We're not talking
in a
context
way,
specific right now, though. We're
veganism
like,
is set out to kind of fix since the get-go. These are things that, like, you know, even the soil, the
hold
world's
up, Cal.
resources in that
We're
regard,
not
these are
talking
things that
context
vegans have
specific
looked to
at the moment.
protect.
Wait, just 1 second, Cal. We're not talking context specific. We're just literally talking about like
What are you
how
talking
you.
about?
So we're not talking like specific to like animal agriculture, like veganism right now. You just said that you like don't agree with property rights as a whole. So now I'm more so just asking you, as a whole, how do you respond to the problem of like how do we determine what like valuable uses of a good shall be made? Because if it's not property rights, then what is it? Like what solution to this problem would you?
Yeah, well, like I said, I think that you have to live within the sphere of the reality of life, and the reality of life for me, living in the West, is we live under a sort of capitalist socio-political framework within legality, and I have to sort of like yield my behavioralisms to that. So that's what I would sort of appeal to within that
Theoretically,
sense.
we're literally just talking theoretically because you said you don't agree with property rights. So therefore, if you don't agree with property rights, what solution would you propose in this state of nature to the problem of how to determine which valuable uses of a good shall be made? Like we're talking like
I don't think it.
theoretically.
I don't. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think it is an issue that requires a solution.
It definitely does. So it definitely requires a solution. And like, I mean, like, if there's no solution made, then what it's eventually going to boil down to is fighting over resources, because this is going to be like the most intrinsically sought out.
I think as a society, collectively, I think we've agreed upon the fact that, the way that the process is within, legal and political framework within the West, we've
talking
sort
about
of. No, we are, because I think that that's
we're just
it's all
talking
done.
about the theory of property rights.
It's all pursued within a legal context, and I think the way things are as they are, I think that servicing humanity's needs circumspectively within that sense is the best way to address it, which is what we're doing. So
With all due respect, we're seriously just talking about like philosophical theory right now.
right.
I mean, if you're just like, if you don't really want a conversation about philosophical theory, that's fine. If you want to talk about something else with someone else, just let me know and I'll head off.
No, I'm
Like,
interested in being a
essentially-
bit more. I'm interested in being a bit more specific towards veganism.
Right, but like
No,
like
I'm
my
interested. I'm
argument
interested in talking about philosophical theory if it applies to veganism. But if
You're
we're just
right. I gave like
Yeah.
an argument against veganism, and then like your critique of my argument was that you don't agree with property rights, and now I'm trying to show that your critique
that
of my
wasn't a
argument.
critique of your
But,
argument.
but I don't think it is a
That was just an
critique.
arbitrary
If anything,
interjection.
it
That was
would
just
be
an arbitrary
a
interjection. That
challenge
wasn't a
for
critique
veganism.
whatsoever. So what is it?
Would you
I
say
think
that?
that the question I originally asked is that what drove you away from veganism? Not sure that I got an answer to that.
Oh yeah, what drove me away from veganism was because I don't think it would be entailed by a theory of property rights that animals would have as much moral value as like us, right? And then that's when I offered this argument. Then if you don't have a critique of the argument, then would you agree with the argument?
No, but what is it about property rights specifically that tells you that instead of minimizing harm and exploitation as much as possible, you should maximize it as much as possible? That's the thing that I'm still quite unclear of.
Oh, no, so I like the idea of like minimizing harm and exploitation. Like I actually hold to that as well, but that's
So what
not
drove you away from
veganism.
veganism? That
Well,
is
yeah, because
veganism.
because veganism would entail a contradiction in the fact that, like the definition of veganism, like ethically speaking, is not minimizing harm. Like if you hold to that as veganism,
No,
that's
that
fine.
is
You
that
actually
is
don't
the
have to say that.
definition. The people who invented veganism as a concept, that's the way that they define it. They're called the Vegan Society.
Oh, well, first of all, there's not going to be like an objective definition that exists. I think when we're talking about like vegan
I
ethics,
think all definitions are valid. I think that the dictionary definition of veganism is valid, and also the
Right, so
definition of veganism as entailed by the Vegan Society is also valid as well. I think the
here's the
dictionary
like,
servant is
like
the way society understands language, and I think
there's
that
not going to
veganism
be there's not
was
going to be like a
created for a
non-valid.
purpose.
There's
Dictionary
not going to be like a
definitions are not
non-valid
valid.
definition of veganism, but like like definitions are inherently subjective, and that's fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and like tell you like what I mean when I say veganism. or like what I like when I like what like like
What,
idea
what,
I'm
what do
referring
you
to.
what do you understand veganism to be? Because I'm not sure that,
Yeah.
with
So
absolute respect, I'm not sure that what you understand veganism to be is what veganism is or what vegans intend it to be.
Yeah. So when I'm talking about veganism, right, we're talking about vegan ethics, right? And under like a theory of vegan ethics, are all that we're saying, premise one, like sentience is of moral value. Premise two, all entities that possess sentience have moral value. Premise
Right, but
three, animals
I
possess
also
sentience.
I also do care
Wait,
about
can I
beings
finish?
that aren't
Can I finish?
sentient as well. Just
Can
to
I?
interject, I do care about beings that aren't sentient as well. I think they're worthy of moral value also.
Okay. That's interesting, but
I mean,
I'm not the proponent right now.
I'd rather kill as few plants as I could, instead of killing as many plants as I could. For instance, you understand what I mean?
Oh yeah, but I don't think this is going to be like entailed on a moral value that the plant would have. This would more so just be a strategic way of humans
I
making
don't
better.
think plants have the same moral value as humans or animals, but I think that they are
If there were,
worthy of moral consideration and
yeah,
value. Yeah.
if there were infinite plants, would you still hold that?
I mean, that's an impossibility that you're appealing to something being infinite, which is an impossibility. So
It's
I
not
don't think
like
that's
no. So
worthy
this
of any
is
consideration an argument.
so this is the metaphysical, like metaphysically possible hypothetical. So when we're talking about like the Socratic method and specifically like how we would dictate testing principle, all that we have to consider are hypotheticals that are metaphysically possible, and like infinity would not necessarily contradict any of the three classical laws of logic. Therefore, this would entail metaphysical possibility. If it entails metaphysical possibility, it is a valid hypothetical. So like
I
now that
mean,
like we understand that this
can
like
you
would
give
be
any
valid.
evidence that in the thing anything being infinite is inherently possible?
Oh yeah, sure. So like metaphysical possibility would entail like obedience to the three classical laws of logic. The first one being like the law of identity, second one being the law of non-contradiction, and the third one being the law of excluded middle. And like infinity is not necessarily contradictory. Infinity is going to be true or false, and infinity is going to yield an identity of infinity, right? So this would entail like possibility. If you can tend to that, then just tell me which law of logic this would ingress upon. Like as we would understand it to be possible, right? Like if there were infinite plants, would you like still like say that they would like you should use as little plants as possible? Because like all that I'm getting at is like I don't think plants would like hold this value even under your worldview. You just like I think like all goods would hold this level of value to the sense that we descriptively observe them being scarce, and we must act in a strategic manner to like use scarce goods in like the most valuable way, and therefore we should like have limited use to a certain extent. But this isn't going to entail value of the scarce good. This is more so going to entail a strategic way of using said scarce good. So just
Right.
once again, if plants were infinite, we still hold to
What
this
do you
notion.
understand? What do you understand veganism to be, and what drew you away from veganism? I still don't think I've got an argument to that one. Sorry, I
Yeah,
still don't think I've had an answer to that one.
we can talk about that, but that was a bit of a red herring because we're just finishing up on this plant bit. So just once again, now that we understand the hypothetical to be like valid, would you say that you'd still use as little plants as possible if there were infinite plants?
I mean, I think that that's something that would be worthy of consideration if it were actually the case. But within the sphere of the world that we live in just now, as it is, I don't necessarily think that it's worthy of consideration.
Okay, well, like again, like the reason that we're bringing this up is to just show like value that plants would have when it be dictated by the plant and of themselves.
Do you think it would be okay, like if you had the
I'm just showing
ability
the
to kill
I'm just
X
showing
amount
the
of plants, do you
contradiction.
think it would be okay to magnify that by the power of 100 just for fun?
Well, no, because they're scarce, right?
Right, well, there you
Because
go.
they're scarce goods. So, like, I mean, would you say that like this value would be entailed because they're scarce goods? Like, that's all I'm asking you.
No, I don't think it's anything to do with the scarcity. I think that because
Okay.
they're
So
living and
therefore,
because the science shows that there are, some initial signs of intelligence and consciousness, I think they're worthy of some moral consideration, but don't think that I'm saying that they're worthy of the same moral consideration as animals and humans. I think sentience is very, very important, but I think they are worthy of some moral consideration. And even to answer your question, I think, sorry, I'm sidelining, but to answer your question, even if they were infinite, yeah, I'd hold the same perspective.
okay, yeah, sure, that's fine. Because you're just saying like they'd have some level of like consciousness or sentience. Yeah, can you send me any like academic like research that would denote observed consciousness or sentience within plants?
Yeah, sure, no problem. I mean,
Okay.
do you want to message me after you come off? I mean, there's initial evidence that there's some kind of consciousness. It depends because the scientific consensus on this is very, very conflicted. Because even the definition of sentience, a small fringe group of scientists define sentience in a different way that 99% of scientists do. So there is a bit of scientific sort of like consensus confliction within that framework.
Oh, I'd just be looking for like consistency under like your framework. So like when we talk about like different words and how we define them and what we mean when we say sentience or like literally anything else, all
Yeah.
that we should be looking for when like validating an argument or position would be internal consistency. So if you like describe sentience as like, you know, I don't know, the ability to have subjective experiences, and you would deem plants to have subjective experiences, then you're
No,
consistent.
I don't think that they do at all whatsoever.
Right. So then, like, if you were to define sentience as like ability to possess subjective experience, and then you
Right.
do not hold to the position that plants would hold to this, then
No,
you would have.
I don't think that plants are sentient. I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I don't think plants are sentient whatsoever, and that's why I think that veganism is the moral superiority stance. But yeah, no, I think that plants are still worthy of some moral consideration because they are living and because that they have shown signs of some low level of consciousness and intelligence, but not sentience. So I just don't. In order for me to survive, if me surviving hinged on destroying 10 plants or 10,000 plants, I would obviously take the former.
I forgot you can't hear me if I'm on pause. Define consciousness.
Sorry.
Define consciousness real quick.
What is the? I mean, consciousness was essentially being alive, essentially being able to react to stimuli.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
Do you feel bad when you brush your teeth?
I'm sorry.
Do you like? Are you doing something morally wrong when you brush your teeth? Then?
I mean, my teeth are part of a sentient being, or one
Oh, no,
part
not
of
your
a
teeth.
sentient being.
So no, it could be because like unicellular organisms would like possess this ability. Like we see unicellular organisms obviously possessing biological life and responding to external stimuli. Therefore, like under your worldview, this would equate to some level of consciousness, right? So then like dude, then so are you saying that like brushing your teeth is morally wrong because you like unalive like 400 million unicellular organisms that would like meet your criteria for conscious? And then also like on another notion, like typically when we would like deem like a human to be sleeping, we'd say a human is unconscious. However, this human's still alive and would still react to external stimuli. So now you're saying that like humans are like conscious when they're sleeping? I mean, I just think you need a better definition of consciousness.
I'm still, so at the moment, regardless of the word vegan, are you consuming animal products, wearing animal products? Like, I'm still struggling to understand this rationale of like, well, I found a potential snag here, so therefore I'm going to go back to old ways.
No, I found a potential snag. Therefore, I'm going to find another theories of ethics that doesn't possess that potential snag.
Yeah, and I understand that part, but I'm talking about in terms of your actions.
Oh, my actions wouldn't equate to my ethical code. I think I do moral wrongs. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I eat meat, but like, I think that's morally wrong for me to do. Like, I'm literally a bad guy for that.
So you do agree with veganism?
No, because I wouldn't hold to like the use of animal products to be wrong. Then I also wouldn't entail like the same level of moral value in terms of property rights. And if I don't hold the same level of moral value, then I wouldn't be vegan, right? Because I would like bestow the right to life in the same way that you would. However, like I know, unless I instill a lower level of moral value, that this would result in a contradiction if I don't also grant property rights, etc. So this is why I hold to a form of particularism.
Right, so you agree with the fact that eating meat's wrong, but you disagree with the fact that using animal products are wrong.
Yeah, then also like granting property rights, etc. But anyways, man, did you get a definition for consciousness or have a response to those ideas about unicellular organisms?
One's surroundings, which I believe plants do, if I'm right.
Ability to respond to one's surroundings. Well, then,
Yeah.
how do you feel about unicellular organisms? Is it morally wrong to brush your teeth twice a day?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that I want to destroy as many microorganisms as I possibly can either, if there was a way to avoid it.
No way, really? Well, we're not like denoting an intent to destroy. What we would be
No,
denoting
this is
is
what
a
I'm saying.
lack
I
of
think
intent to not
veganism is
destroy.
about minimizing harm,
Yeah.
pain,
Do
and
you minimize?
exploitation as much as possible. I think that if I had the ability to harm as few microorganisms as possible as I possibly could, I would also take that option as well.
Okay. How many times do you brush your teeth a day?
Twice.
Okay. So are you gonna start brushing them once because like this would harm less microorganisms and it wouldn't have a negligible effect on the state of your teeth?
No, because I think that there is a justification for that because it's about dental health, and the
Yeah.
recommended daily amount for brushing one's teeth is twice a day.
So therefore, like,
Unless you can prove me wrong on that one.
so then you just observe like some marginal utility to yourself, being justification in 400 like million to billion like microorganisms' lives. Like so, this is like what we're saying. Like you're saying like I would say that like under
But
your
isn't that
worldview, you're
potentially the
either gonna
same
have
with
to
every step
justify.
that you take? Every
Yeah,
time you
every
blow
step,
your
exactly.
nose?
Every step that you take, every action that you take. So it's like, should you be minimizing like your actions and your steps that are unnecessary? Like under whatever your definition of necessary would be to end as little lives as possible? No. I'm slapping my arm right now. I'm unaliving millions of microorganisms' lives. But I don't think I'm doing
No, but
anything wrong. But
would you do that just for fun? If there was a way to minimize microorganism deaths as much as possible, would you take it or would you amplify it just for fun?
I mean, I'm amplifying it right now for fun, and I don't feel like I'm doing anything morally wrong.
Right. Okay. I mean, I think that's a lower capacity for morality beyond within my world purview, but I think we'd have to sort of like agree to disagree on that one. I think
Yeah,
that
I think
causing extra pain, exploitation, suffering, and death in any sense when there's ability to cause a smaller amount is objectively immoral. I think
well,
that
according to a
aligns
perspective
with
of
the
morality.
concept of
Yeah,
morality at an elemental level.
I'm
First of
still
all, like at
finding
an
a little bit
elemental
of a
level, I don't think
loss
there's
why
any like
it's almost
justification
like
for that,
I
right?
can't avoid the way that microorganisms are killed. So therefore I'm going to go back to having sentient cows strung up and their throats slit. I
Right.
don't understand that.
I
Oh
still
well,
don't
you guys
understand
don't
that.
understand my ethical theory. You guys don't understand my ethical theory. Like I never said that. Actually, I hold to like probably exactly like what I thought you guys held to, but I just have a theory that doesn't result in as many contradictions. And then also when you say like morality at an elemental level, like would say like this is wrong. Well, like that's not true. There's many theories of ethics, and I think that to denote like a logical one, we wouldn't be observing any like moral value being distilled in like say unicellular organisms because it's just going to be absurdity backed by no justification, right? Because I think that we have to denote like positive like qualities or traits within entities that would be bestowing of moral value, and I don't think an ability to react to external stimuli is necessarily going to be just in that sense. And then also, do you think abortion's wrong? Are you pro-life?
I'm pro-choice.
Wait, oh, you're pro-choice, but you value
He's
like
going for,
any
he's going for the
external
he's going
stimuli?
for the two quo fallacy.
Mm-hmm.
No, wait, no, but no, well, this isn't a fallacy. I would say that vegans can be like pro-choice if you just hold up a value for sentience, like
Sure.
just draw it at 24 weeks with a thymocortical connections. However, you're telling me not only do you value sentience, you just value any ability to respond to external stimuli,
But
right?
that's
And
No,
this
not
is
what
to me like
veganism is.
I didn't say I valued it in the same way. I said that if there was a way to minimize plants are alive, they're not living beings, but they are alive. And I think if there was a way to minimize plant deaths as much as possible in order for human survival, we should also follow that route as well. Do you disagree?
I mean, I'm more so talking about the absurdity of microorganism death
No, I mean, do you agree or do you disagree with that though?
with like what the notion of plants.
No, with just the question I just asked about plants. If there was a way to minimize plant death destruction as much as possible in order for you to survive, would you take that route or would you amplify it just for fun?
So I would take that route, but like with different
Well, there you go. So
justification.
we agree.
Well, we agree upon the conclusion, but not how we got there. Like, see, I
Right.
would agree out of a notion of scarcity of goods, right? Like, I think if there's infinite plants, then there'd be like literally nothing wrong with that.
Right. Okay. I'm not sure I agree with that one. I think we'd have to agree to disagree with that one. But yeah. So I'm still, is it about veganism? I think this is like the last question because I think we've done this to death now. But
Yeah,
I'm
I would
still,
normally only
I'm,
go till 10 anyway, so we'll
I'm
just see
still,
this out.
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
gonna get off after this too. Go to the gym.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna get off after this question and go to the gym. So go for it.
Yeah. No, I'm still not sure what took you away in the other direction of veganism.
Oh yeah, because I told you it's just it's a contradictory theory of ethics.
Because it's not perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're going to be like a generalist, you're going to have to think like whatever theory that you hold to is always correct. Because if
Did
you
you think
don't,
that veganism was moral perfectionism before? Was that your initial sort of like supposition?
wait, so moral perfectionism is going to be entailed by generalism. So like we have like two theories of ethics, generalist theories and like particularist
Moral
theories.
perfectionism is being morally perfect, you
Oh,
know,
this isn't being morally
quite
perfect.
quite quite
This is
simply.
going to this is no, so this is there's a difference, right? So we're not talking about like pragmatic actions of an individual. We're talking about like the theoretical implications of a generalist theory of ethics. So like the theoretical implications of a generalist theory of ethics would basically imply that this theory is always right. Right. And then like if you're going to hold to a generalist theory and you don't think your theory is always right, well then you just have like a contradiction that you're okay with. So this is just illogical. So therefore, you must always abide by a generalist theory of ethics, which would then therefore grant like the mentioned absurdities, like within vegan ethics, such as property rights, or you're going to hold to like a theory of like particularism, where you're saying that you value different conjunctions contextually. And I value different conjunctions contextually. However, vegan ethics is inherently like a generalist theories of rights, so this is why I disagree with veganism. But this more so has to do with like the nuances of philosophical theory in comparison to any like implications of pragmatic issues observed in like the world around us. So I mean, this is just more of like a nuanced philosophical approach compared to like some descriptive disagreement.
Right, okay. So you, it still seems like, if I've understood it perfectly, you had an initial supposition about veganism being some kind of moral perfection, and
All
you
generalists
sort
are
of like you found a few contradictions in it. So because it wasn't as perfect as you thought it was, you walked in the other direction.
Wait, yeah, this is what we all should all do. We should all be rational. Like this is just on a completely philosophical notion.
I don't think
Like
But
being
going back
rational
to
is
what I said
wasn't.
to you like a while ago now, this is kind of all encompassed within the theory in the sense that the things that we do and decide now are drawn in pencil because they're the best of what we can do now. In 20 years' time, we can
That's not
rub
what we
that out
do.
and write the new because we've been able to solve these particular conundrums that at the moment we can't solve. But we're not pretending that we can.
Oh, it has nothing to do with like
It
a
would it
pragmatic
should be
action.
a challenge for
This is
veganism as
all
opposed
philosophical
to
theory. This is all philosophical. I swear, I'm literally just talking to you guys about philosophical theory. Nothing to do with the actions that people take. Literally nothing to do with that. It's all just like logical problems with the theory. That's all that we're talking. Everything that we're talking about is not tangible. It doesn't exist. It's all abstract. It all just exists in our minds. It's just like logical debate of philosophical theory. There's contradictions that arise out of the philosophical theory of vegan ethics because I don't think that vegan ethics are always right.
I mean, I wouldn't disagree with that.
I think that hinges on the fact that veganism isn't moral perfection, which not a single vegan would argue the fact that it is. I think it still hinges on the same logic. But anyway, yeah, fair enough. No, I appreciate your perspective though.
Yeah, of course. And then like yeah, if like if you say that like your ethical theory is not always right, well then you just would be like irrational in the sense that you're just okay with contradictions. But like that's more of like a nuanced approach. Maybe you mean like moral perfectionism under a different notion, but who knows? I appreciate you guys for the debate. Kalia L, I hit you with that follow. I do lives every night, so you know, feel
I'll
free
follow
to
you
pop
back.
up on one
I
if there's a
appreciate it.
related topic.
Yeah,
Been
I
a
mean, it's up to you totally, but I highly recommend you check out some Tom Reagan. The Case for the Animal Rights is a fantastic book that most people can't understand, but you certainly will be able to understand it, and it
I
probably
think you'll enjoy
explains a lot
it.
of these things better than I can ever.
Cool. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
I think you should
No,
look into that. I think you'll enjoy it.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you guys. Have a good rest of your guys' day.
no worries.
Pleasure to meet you, my friend.
Pleasure to meet you as well. Bye bye.
Cheers, Cal. Thank you for joining. So much. You've been brilliant. Thank you, chat, and we'll be here probably tomorrow night. I'm sure.
My
at some
pleasure,
point.
mate. Lovely to speak to you as always.
Anyway, thanks so much. See you later, everyone.
Bye bye.